from the inside. He runs his business right from the outside. Please welcome Dave for a moment.
Thank you, Wally. I see Todd Arnold's here. What an honor, sir. Good to see you. I want to say thank you all. I want to echo a little bit about what Wally said. And coming up in my career, just doing this since 2001, I've had a lot of people that have given me a hand up and helped me get to where I am and be successful. And I don't know anybody who likes to give back and help people try to be successful as much as Wally and I. We're constantly sponsoring events for you all. You know, close with confidence is what we say at Landmark Title. We don't just mean that for your buyers and sellers. We want that for you all, which is why we do so many educational programs and sponsor so many events. You see our little Who We Are flyer that we put together, sort of the 4 companies to Landmark, and I know most of you are familiar with Landmark Title, and a lot of you close with us, and from the heart, thank you very much. We appreciate that. We've got 11 attorneys now. We just hired our 11th one 2 weeks ago, just opened our 7th location in Jacksonville Beach. Heekin Law, you're familiar with that. Anytime you need an attorney, a litigation matter, probate, quiet title partition, anything like that, we've got you covered, which is nice. Landmark University is something we started this year. That's our goal is that the 14 hours of CE credit that you all need every 2 years, you'll get entirely through Landmark University. So I'm now a licensed FREC instructor. We've started having CE classes. We have about 6 two-hour CE courses that we're teaching, and we're going to do a lot of them starting next year. We've already had a couple, but in addition to teaching CE courses, we always do things like Ask the Appraiser. Anybody come to the Ask the Appraiser events we had in St. John's and Clay County? Those were awesome. And doing events like this with Don Hobbs sponsoring this stuff. Anything to help you all grow as an agent, we want to sponsor. And then last is our foundation. We started that in 2018. $10 from every closing goes to that. A little more than $30,000 we raised in 2018. It'll be a little more than $40,000 this year. We've got the first date for our golf tournament next year. And our big thing that we're going to do is similar to what Habitat for Humanity does, except they do new constructions. We're going to do rehab houses. Our goal is to do 2 houses next year, 4 to 6 in 2021, and then by 2022 we want to be doing a house a month. And that'll be fully rehabbing houses to brand new condition and putting low-income buyers in them. So we're real excited about that, and we're going to talk to you all more about that as they come, because we've had a lot of realtors say, let me know when you're doing these days at the house. We want to come out and volunteer. So we'll end up having events where we'll hire contractors to run everything, but there'll be days where our employees will be out working on the house and realtors who want to come out and participate. So we're just real excited to be a part of this event, and I'm fortunate that I've got to know Wally over the years, and that we both share a passion for giving back and for trying to help you all and educate you and be the best that you can be. So I know you're excited about today, and so without further ado, I'm going to hand the mic back to Wally and let him introduce Don.
So here's another interesting thing about the little black dress analogy. That's a good analogy. You all have this tremendous desire to create an all referral business. I watch people brag about it. People ask, I work entirely by referral. Here's what we know to be true. Every single person that you sold a home to in 2018 knows between 2 and 10 people that listed or sold in 2019. Everyone from 2018 knows 2 to 10 in 2019. That means that just by your past business, your referral should be 2-fold or 10-fold each year. Yes? Rarely, if ever, does that happen. And there's a reason why. I am a devout student of the real estate transaction. I love watching the entirety of it to figure out how in the world can we make this better. Better for the agent, better for the customer. And here's how I distilled it down. The agent judges their performance between what occurs from initial meeting until closing. We got that baby across the finish line, high five, picture, you're looking great. My discovery, spending even more time with buyers and sellers than I do with real estate agents, is that customer judges your performance based on how they enjoyed the house from the day of closing until the end of time. We know it to be true that every single thing that occurs in the real estate transaction and occurs in that home until the end of time, in the mind of the customer, is the fault of the agent. And I can prove it to you. Cute couple moves into a house that you put them in. 3 years later, they divorce. That should be 3 sides, shouldn't it? I mean, it's a negative, but it should be 3 sides. 5 sides? Okay, should be 5. Okay, but it doesn't occur because the negative in the house they associate with who brought them to it. The same thing what happens when stuff breaks in the house. Some of you may have seen a thing I did with Ben Becker on Action News about the people bought a home in an older section of Mandarin off Old St. Augustine Road. They were told it was on JPA. Everybody that knows the neighborhood knows it was on septic. They moved in. A turd wouldn't go away. They called to get the turd chased. The plumbers showed up and said, you don't have a turd problem. You have a septic problem. It needs to be replaced. It's $12,000. Then what happened is the agent explained why it wasn't them, both the listing agent and the selling agent. The appraiser explained why it wasn't them. The warranty company explained why it wasn't them. The homeowner's insurance company explained why it wasn't them. And the home inspector explained why it wasn't him. Every single one of those people was correct, viewed in the silo of their individual responsibility, yet the individual was stuck with a $12,000 bill. We put together a program such that every time a person has a problem in a home, you gain a referral. Because we know things are going wrong. And we want them to call you and say, my gosh, Christina, I have this problem in my house. You sold this to me. What do I do now? And loop it back into the inspection and warranty process for recovery. How are we going to do that? Over $25,000 in after inspection protection on every single home we look at. Structure, covered. Underground sewer lines. The most expensive line in the house is the line from the street to the house, not covered by anything. We'll pay up to $2,500 to repair or replace. Visible mold. You see mold in this room? I don't see it either. People move in, they take down the mirror, there's mold. It's no one's fault. It's there, they need a remedy. Pays up to $2,500 to take care of that. This is all included in the inspection. Same with numerous other things. We want the person to associate you with everything that relates to real estate so they call you, you can loop it back with a solution. Because we know that every time something goes wrong in the house, they're telling everyone, oh, my roof leaked. Oh, that's so sad. Thank God I worked with John Brooks. John took great care of me. We have a 5-year roof protection plan. Pays up to $4,000 to repair that leak. They can choose their own contractor. And if they decide they'd rather apply that money to a new roof, they can do that. So the story ends with, and John did this for me, or Dave did this for me, or whomever did this for me, rather than, well, that really sucks, who was your agent? That's what asymptotic growth by referral looks like. Reasonable? Reasonable. Let's talk about Don. That's why you came here. Oh, I could talk forever. I started the home inspection universe in 1994. At the time, home inspection looked like 9 home inspectors in the phone book. Each one was a man in a van. Early on, I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to get involved in agent education. I was teaching success school at Watson Realty, which I've been doing for 25 years. And the lady who was in charge at that time, a nice lady named Rosemary Cooper, has since passed away. Anybody remember Rosemary? Beautiful woman. She passed away. She and Watson Realty, Mr. Watson specifically, paid a boatload of money to bring Don Hobbs to Palm Coast. They did a company-wide event. And 600 or 700 agents in the room, gazillions of dollars to bring Don in. And poor Rosemary had to put on this event and hand out flyers and check people in. She called me and said, well, will you do me a favor? I said, yes, Rosemary, what is it? She said, Don Hobbs is coming to town. We're doing this big event. Would you come help us hand out stuff? Yes, ma'am. You can count on that. So there I was. We're brand new in the business. Don Hobbs' character is there. And he's talking about personal branding and business development for agents. He's coached hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of agents doing about $100 million a year. Realtor Magazine says he's in the 25 most influential people in real estate. Now I'm just sitting there for nothing. And all I did was said, if I can become Wally Conway, the home inspector, and visible, we're going to grow a really neat business. So I credit and applaud Don for doing that. How did Don get to be Don? So Don's growing up in Northern California, nice guy, his mother loves him, and his mom goes to a Jim Rohn seminar. Everybody know Jim Rohn? Since passed 10 years ago, just recently. His mother goes to Jim Rohn seminar and says, my gracious, this could change my life. and helped me change my child's life. So she sends Don, who's a high school kid, to go to a Jim Rohn seminar. I'm guessing everyone here has listened to some of Jim's things. And Don's wise enough, even as a high school kid, and says, this is a path that can change my life. Ends up working for Jim Rohn while still a teenager. So at that point in the 70s, Rohn is an up-and-coming guy, just like all of us now. I'm 64, but I'm still up-and-coming. Rohn wants to be the next Zig Ziglar. Nobody succeeds alone, so he's got a high school kid, Don Hobbs, helping him, and they hire another teenager, too, to help him, Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins and Don Hobbs helped him build this business that became Jim Rohn Enterprises. Tony went on to be Tony. Don went on to be the president of Jim Rohn Enterprises. He gets to be old, like John Brooks, like 28, and says, it's time to spark out on my own. I can do this stuff. I know what I'm doing. He gets together with Greg Herter, Hobbs Herter Advertising. Don essentially invented the idea of personal branding for real estate agents. Up until Don, it was, I got a gold jacket. That means I work for Century 21. It was never about the individual agent standing out to be special and make a lot of money and perform. They created that. When he left there, he ended up creating MAPS business and one thing certification with Gary. How the hell did he and I get involved? Through a stroke of genius that takes more time than you want to hear, I got invited to a thing called Empire Building, 13 steps to a business worth owning that Gary was beta testing. In a room this size, and KWR was in the room, in the conference room at Keller, me and 79 other business owners for 2 days just with Gary. At that same time, Don was in the room, we met, we became friendly, we started doing bold business together, we started doing MAPS business together, we started doing one thing certification together, and he helped me hone my game to a place that it never would have got to before. If you listen to Don, know that wherever you started from, he started below that. Know that wherever your aspiration is, he's carried himself and others beyond that. He is a delightful man, a fly fisherman, and I'm really proud that he's a friend of mine, and he said, let's do this together, and please welcome Don Hobbs.
Hey, Wally.
Yes.
Thanks, brother. I was impressed. The intro was like, who's he talking about? I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Wally, very much. Dave, thank you for making this whole thing happen. You guys did great. Hi. Hi, everyone else. So excited to be here. I've been waiting to get to Jacksonville. I've been waiting for a win, actually, is what I've been waiting for. And I couldn't wait any longer, so I just came this week. So I know that's probably not a fun thing to talk about, but it is true. I love that you're journaling. That's awesome. Who's your influence on that? Oh, seriously? No, Jim Rohn. It's a pleasure, and I love, Wally, thank you for the great introduction. You know stuff that I didn't know you knew. I mean, actually, that's way detailed. I had the good fortune to run into Jim at the right time, right? And how many of you are Jim Rohn fans? Anybody? Okay, for the rest of you who are like, Jim, how do you spell that? R-O-H-N. Make that your first note. And you find him on YouTube tonight. He passed, today is what, the 4th? December 4th? Tomorrow will be his 10-year anniversary of his passing. He was like my father. Don't get me started already, okay? I may not be able to get through that, but he was a big deal in my world. Where did that come from? So, Jim was, when he passed, and we did the big celebration in Anaheim, California, there were about 10,000 people that showed up, and probably any speaker that you know the name of came and said he was the guy that started it. So, if you don't know who he is, it's because maybe you're young in business or young in age, and I think his stuff is timeless. So I would, with great respect to you and him, say, get to know him, get to meet him. He's not with us anymore, but certainly having a big impact.
And Tony Robbins, I'm heading down to see him tomorrow. He's doing his Date with Destiny, and Tony and I have had a long-standing relationship. In fact, we're launching a podcast, and I called Tony and said, would you be a guest? And he said, you know I don't do podcasts. I said, no, I'm very aware you don't do podcasts. He said, I'll do yours. So we're going to have Tony Robbins on our podcast here in the next few weeks, and that will be very exciting, and I'm super excited about that. Very happy to be here because this particular group, as Wally and Dave set it up, you know, generally speaking, we've got some big players here. And it's kind of fun to have a couple of people walk in and acknowledge that we met years ago and that it's made a difference in your world, and I love that. But I think this is a place where we can really do some fun stuff. And I prepared a lot of slides. I told Wally today at breakfast, I said, I've got slides, but I may just like open it up instead of having the formal slides and just almost saying like, let's just jump to stuff. But I think I want to get through some things on a formal basis and then open it up to Q&A if we get any time. Of course, I don't think we've got a huge press, Wally. We're going to be here again later this afternoon, and we're not going anyplace. So there's a, you know, if we fudge a little bit and go over, that may work. But for some of you may have, you know, tight, drop dead deadlines. So we'll just we'll be as respectful as we can about time and get through as much as we can. And no matter what we don't get through, I've got a website, a Facebook group that you can get into. I want you all to be in there. And in fact, I shot a video yesterday without the help of my production assistant and managed to not shoot the video. I actually did the whole thing. It was awesome. And then I got done and had no video. So that's, anyway, we do a lot of stuff in there. And I've just been doing a program similar to this. And one, we just got the footage, which I think we're going to actually release in there. And second, we had... we put a bunch of downloads, a bunch of tools, and we just put them in a folder and said, hey, go in there and just get them, right? So they're there for you. And so I'll make sure that you know what the homework is, but that's the place to go get it, and we'll make sure that you guys are in there, okay? We will accept you. You're just going to put either Wally or Dave's name, and there's 3 questions, and you put Wally or Dave's name in there, and that's the magic key to opening up the lock to all that stuff. So let's go through some stuff today and see if we can get through a bunch of things. What I recognize in real estate, and Wally, thank you for that intro, we did have the good fortune at Hobbs to found the idea of personal branding. We're going to definitely dabble in that today. It's not all about personal branding. It's about the things that it's going to take to go from wherever you are, and I'm sure many of you are very successful, very achieved. But some of you, you know, that are in that 7, 8, 10, $12 million range. How do you move up? You know, in my world, very commonly, like we were talking about Terry Pranich, right? Terry Pranich was 6 months in the business. 3 years later, 4 years later, I guess he was probably in the range of 400 units a year. And, you know, this blew up. Well, what we had a chance to do with that is always figure out, like, now that you've got that kind of business going, what systems do you need? What structure do you need? So it was never only about personal branding. It's always about how do you build success? How do you create a system for it? And we were long before, you know, the team concept. So a lot of times in that case, we had people doing $50 million with one person, you know, one agent, one assistant, and still having a life, by the way, which is part of the secret. And so I want to give you some ways that we can tune things in and really get things moving the right direction and really focus on the things that really matter, so that the time that you've got is really going to be spent in the places that are going to make the biggest difference in your income and your structure and all of that. I had this up on the screen. So one of the things that, of course, at this level you begin to notice is that nothing is a short-term answer. You're looking for long-term answers. Anything that you're looking at, you know, it's so often that the newer agent goes to a class and they want to hear how to do deals. Like, how do I make a sale? How do I do Facebook so I can get some flow of people? And it's like, I'm not interested in deals. I don't live in the deal-to-deal mentality. And if you do, you're never going to get to that next level, whatever that next level is. You can muscle your way to a certain place. You can just work your way through sheer force to a certain level. Maybe 10 million, maybe 12 million. Maybe, I've seen people almost kill themselves at 20. But you can only spin up that high and that fast for so long before you kind of start flopping, and then you got to go backwards. And unless you create the systems and the structures, you can't keep that assault on the summit. You just can't do it. So I really want you today to think about how do we, to really think the strategic and stop thinking tactical. How do we start thinking long-term versus short-term? How do we move everything into the ownership of business instead of how do we do business? And that would be really the secrets, right? That's the big picture secrets to how we go from wherever we are now to whatever level. Who would like to double, potentially even triple this year, 2020? By the way, an interesting year, 2020, new decade, interesting sound, 2020 vision, right? It's kind of a cool thing. There's going to be a lot of energy around that, I promise. And so what you want to do is harness that and figure out what you're going to do with it. But I was talking about Terry Peranich, since we ran into that this morning, one of Ollie's team, and we were talking about this guy, Terry Peranich, and Terry was brand new in the business. And when you watch somebody come in, generally speaking, that first couple of years can be very treacherous, right? A lot of people don't make it through that first couple of years. But he excelled in the first year. I think he did something like 52 deals or something like that. Second year was like 100 and something. Then it was 300. But what you'll notice is that people will come in, and if they're doing 5 million, the next natural jump is like 12, 13, 14, not 6. If you're really doing things right, it's not an incremental gain, it's a doubling. And then you get to 12, and it's like the next is 30. But if you're doing it the hard way, if you're doing it the labor-intensive way, if you're thinking short-term, the next is like 14 or 15. So what we want to do today is kind of put you in a track where you can really begin to think beyond the natural, the thing that is most natural in real estate, and get to the most natural thing for success, and really look at how we can build that. The purpose of the business, the purpose of your business is to serve your life. Be very clear about that. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not serving the clients. It doesn't mean that we're not giving. I mean, Wally clearly has committed himself. Dave has clearly committed themselves to the client, to the ultimate experience. But if the business doesn't serve me, how interested am I going to be 2 years from Tuesday? Right? If the business doesn't serve my life, then why am I here? What am I doing? So ultimately, there's a piece where you've got to realize that your business is here to serve you. If it's not, fix it or get out. Otherwise, it's no fun, it's a job, it becomes drudgery and all of that. So this is what it's all about. From my point of view, is how do we succeed at the highest levels and love what we do. Just love what we do. Pour our passion into it and really give it. And Wally, I heard that coming out in your voice. I love that you're so passionate about what you do. It's not like you just do what you do. It's like that you love what you do, that you're very passionate about it. And that carries over to your clients, it carries over to the people that you're serving. So I hung around with this guy for 8 years. I was 18 when I joined him. I was 24 when I was the president of his company, which was a pretty unusual and fast track. And I will tell you that it was the most remarkable experience. So Jim was my mentor. I was with him not 24 hours a day, but at the end, in my presidency, I was with him pretty much 14, 15 hours a day. We would dine together a lot. We hung together. It was an amazing experience. So if I drop a few Jim Rohn-isms on you, don't be shocked. He's a big part of my life, a big part of my world. And I believe that this is truly a man who was gifted, because what Jim saw was the philosophy behind life, not just the doings of life. He was really a man who could look at the big picture and frame it in a way that made such sense. When you listen to him, you go, well, this is really simple stuff, I know. And that's why it's so powerful, because it really is easy to do. It's simple stuff to understand. One of his ideas about success was that it's neither magical or mysterious. Success is a natural consequence of consistently applying the basic fundamentals. And really, for each of you, that's what it's about. It's how do we take the basic fundamentals and then do them and do them and do them, systematize them, put other people in place, and we start building a real business, right? It's not just what I do, it's what we do. So this is where we are in the cycles called real estate. And the thing about it, I'm supposed to stay between some lines. I think I went out of my lines. We have a camera back there. I have no tape marker, so I've just got to remember. So when we start talking about the ups and downs, I mean, I go back a long ways. I was in the real estate business. I wasn't in the business. I was working with realtors since 1976. We had a downturn in 83. We had a downturn in the early 90s. I don't know where you were in that time frame, 91 to 93. There was a pretty rough time. 9/11 hit. That wasn't a good time for a lot of people. The markets really crashed. We had another thing that happened in 2008. I don't know, it was some little blip in the economy that happened between 2008 and 2010. this has been the up and down cycle of real estate for eternity, right? I'm sure if we go back to the 50s, it was the same way. So my question is, where are we today? Where are we on this up and down? Where are we today? So John thinks it's C. I definitely believe we're between B and C. I'm not sure if we're C yet. I don't know if we're C minus. We could be. We don't know. And I would say that as I've gotten around to many states, it's different time frames, right? We've got some people that are between B and C, some that have already turned, and you can feel the momentum is definitely down. But I have a question for you, and that has to do with this idea of your economy versus the economy. How many realize that what's going on out there still has nothing to do with you unless you allow it? That when 2008 hit, 2008, 9, and 10, and we had some of the roughest times in real estate, I know people that had their very biggest, best years ever. There was a lot of people that made their fortunes, and yet Gary Keller and I sat in a theater. Funny story, I walked in one night with the lady I was seeing, and I've got my popcorn and soda and whatever else I've got, and I looking for a seat, trying to figure out how I'm going to push the seat down and get my butt in it, and this guy hits me on the head. And I looked up, and I was like, who do I have to fight here? And it's Gary Keller, right? So Gary pops me on the head, and we watched The Big Short together. Did anybody see The Big Short? And we were both like crying, like, oh my gosh, I remember that time. That was rough, right? But I know people that did what they needed to do and changed their models and changed their systems and changed their thinking and came out of that flying high. I was one of those that didn't cut fast enough. And by the way, one of the first notes to self, if you feel like you're moving into a place like that, cut and cut deep. Cut the expenses. Cut stuff out. You got to keep yourself lean and mean. So let's talk about the keys. And I'm going to do as many of these as we possibly can. But I've got like 9 big picture things that I want you to put some attention on, right? Some places for you to kind of put some energy. Number 1 is about creating your purpose, being clear. Sorry, I'm already burning up, so just my jacket, and nothing else will come off. It's just my jacket. Clamor as you may, it's only my jacket. This idea of having your purpose, your vision, and your goals put together. So I'd like to do a goals workshop, and I don't think we've got time for it today because of the short time frame, but it would be a great exercise for you, especially now. And if you haven't already done your goals and your vision and your planning and all of that for this year, for this new year, you're late. We were doing it with all my coaching clients. We did it in October. Some of them November. I just took on 2 new clients. I go, we got a massive run to get this stuff done because we got to get clear. And one of the other things that's really important is this. And I shot a couple of videos about this recently, and that is, this is not the time of year to go to sleep. It's not the time of year to go into holiday mode. It's easy to do because in our business as self-employed, there's very little difference, I've always said, between self-employed and unemployed, right? And this time of year is when you see it most. Because we don't know how to discipline ourselves. And so just yesterday I was telling one of my clients, and I said, you got to realize when you're taking time off, I have no problem with that. You can tell me all the time you want to take off. It's awesome as long as it's on purpose and planned. What I don't want you to do is just slip into the holidays and wake up on January 6th and go, oh crap, right? Because that's what can happen. So right now you need to stay tuned and get your schedules put together and start looking at when will you consciously take off? Like what are the days that you're going to go shop? What are the days you go, well, I'm just going to flow with it. That's not going to work. Not if you're going to succeed, because right now you are creating the momentum. Do you believe that? Right now you're creating the momentum for next year? Yes or yes? Yeah. So if you want to have a great start, I know people will start their year on January 6th and wake up and on that day and go, now what do I do? By the time they really wake up and get going, the first quarter is gone and they've had a bad year. And so I really want you to get clear that you are in the year. You're already there, right? So we want to make sure that we get very clear about this idea of purpose, vision, and goals. And so purpose is the driver behind everything. Purpose is the piece. And I'm going to tell you that for many of you, you've succeeded through effort, through energy, and I'm going to tell you that one of the biggest things I'd love to suggest to you is that many of you aren't clear about your purpose. And when you get clear about your purpose, it'll move even faster. And if you're going to get to the highest levels that you really want to play at, it's going to require that you know your purpose. I love that these guys back here, Dave and Wally, I love that they're involved in philanthropy. I love that they're driven by more than just the money. They're driven by how to transport energy and help people. It's a big deal, right? It's a really big deal. I've been doing this for now 40 whatever years, 41, 42 years, and I'm going to tell you that I've one of my prerequisites. In fact, let me bring this up on the screen. If you want to figure out your purpose, I'd answer these two questions. One is 5 things you would do even if you weren't paid, and I have many times said speaking is my passion. Doing things with people, watching the lights go on, watching the brains tune in, watching people get it. I love that stuff, and I've done it for free. During 2008 through 10, I had the good fortune to have done well, and I took a couple of years, and I just did speaking engagements for real estate companies where people had lost their houses, their cars, they were going through divorces. It was a train wreck. And people had hired me, like Mr. Watson. I wasn't on this side of the coast, but in California where I was living, there were people that were saying, so how much are you charging us for this? I said, nothing. And they said, what are you selling? And I said, nothing. And they said, we don't understand. What's the hook? And I said, people need help, and I got the option, and I have the opportunity. And so, if you can do that, if you can figure out what you would do for free, and then go back. Maybe it's a long time since you really were passionate. Fly fishing I would do for a career if I could, right? Fly fishing would be awesome. I'd never figure out how to make it a career. It would pay much. But, there's people that love photography and then had to get a real job. There's people that love music. I live in Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world. There are tons of musicians there who've given up on their dream because somebody said, you got to get a job. So I want you to start thinking about, what would you do for free? And somewhere in there is maybe one of the ideas. And the second one says, 5 things you would do to change the world. So if you didn't catch this, the slide right before this said something that's very important to you, and that is, there are 2 most important days in your world. The first day is the day you were born. There's a lot of energy in your birth date. There's a lot of energy in your birthday. Don't ever get to the point where you're going, I'm just getting old, I'm not going to count anymore. Celebrate your birthdays because you're still alive. You're on this side of the dirt instead of the other side. So that's a pretty energetic thing right there. I met anybody who the Righteous Brothers were? You usually have to be older to appreciate them. So I flew. Sorry, Christina. Didn't mean that. You have to be old. They were in a movie called Ghost. They had some rebirths of things. Top Gun. Yeah, exactly. And I remember, because I grew up with them, right? My mom and dad were listening to them constantly, and so I remember flying with them, and Bill Medley was sitting next to me here, and Bobby Hatfield was across the way. Bill's still with us. Bobby's now gone. And talking to Bobby though in the lobby of the airport, and he said, I've decided I'm ageless. He said, I've decided that when I got to 50, I would just stay in my 50s for the rest of my life. So he was constantly saying 58, 59, 50, 10, 50, 12, 50, 15, 50, 20, 50, he's always in his 50s. So you just got to figure out how to do that. But the first day that's most important to you is the day you're born, and the second day that's most important to you is the day you figure out what your purpose is. So if that's in your 20s, great. If that's in your 30s, it's great. If you haven't figured it out yet, then now's the time. You got to figure that out. But it's really critical that you really get to that place. Once you get past that purpose, and I would urge you, maybe you'll put some notes together in the way that you're putting your notes together. Put an asterisk or an A for action next to something like, these are things to go do. It's not stuff to listen to. You got to go do something. And I'm going to give you a 9-day challenge because I believe that this should all get done. Everything I'm going to give you today, I believe should all be done by next weekend. So don't put yourself on this, I want to get to it, or we should talk about it, or yeah, I want to think about that a little bit. No, put yourself on a track of, this is my path for planning for next year. If you haven't already done it, whatever you haven't done, if you've already done a lot of planning, whatever you haven't done of these exercises, I'd love to have you done by next Friday, which should be 9 days, right before the weekend. If you need the weekend, take 11, but no more than that, okay? So vision is another piece of it. And here's for all of you. If you want to go to that next level, if you want to get from where you are to the next level, one thing you've got to be clear about is your vision. You've got to get crystal clear, and you've got to get really good at selling it. Because one of the things I know is that talent is one of the movers of your business. Talent is a big deal. The who, Wally just said that earlier today, the who The who is a big deal, and you won't get the who, you won't get the right who's unless you've got a great vision. When you've got a great vision, you can get anybody. What's amazing to me is how often you'll see some company that's a no-name company, yet a technology play, for example, who ends up with some gigantic executive from some company, and you go, how did they get him, or how did they get her? Because the vision was huge, and they were willing to join and be part of it. Years ago, 1993, I think, or 4, how many know who Carl Karcher is? Does that name ring a bell? Anybody? How about Carl's Jr.? Did you ever hear Carl's Jr.? Okay, Carl Karcher, Southern California, Anaheim. Well, he said Northern California. I was actually a Southern California boy. Southern California, Carl's Jr. He had a hot dog stand, turned it into a hamburger stand, turned it into a bunch of them, and it went not worldwide, but national. Carl Karcher had a monster company, and I went after his assistant. 1993, I could no more afford her than I could afford to do anything. We were very small. We were not a startup, but we were in infant stages still. And I remember saying, I need somebody who really understands how a company can be built. And nobody looks at that. They look at executives, and I was looking at an assistant. I was looking at somebody who could move me. And I went and got this lady in 1983. Picture this, an assistant, personal assistant. I paid her $80,000. 1993, so what would that be in today's terms? Well, it's $80,000, yeah, no, it's the same, but it would feel different, right? When people go, I'm in the $1 million club, I'm like, that means nothing. Some of you don't even know there was a $1 million club in real estate. You remember that, Wally? The $1 million club? And we used to put them across stages. They sold $1 million. Ooh. No, seriously. Gary Keller was the one who really started changing that conversation to being making $1 million, right? Netting $1 million. And then Wally, you got some stuff on giving $1 million, right? The philanthropy at the highest levels. Really good stuff. But you've got to get your vision put together. So get a crystal clear vision. When you get crystal clear about your vision, people can buy into something. People can join you. People will stick with you. People will come to you. And if you're going to go from where you are right now to that next level, it's going to happen through people. And by the way, clients will enjoy your vision. Everybody gets attracted to an energetic vision. We want to be part of something bigger than ourselves, something that's notable, something that is energetic and a movement. It's a word I use a lot these days, a movement. When you create a movement, people want to be part of it. So how do we start with the end in mind? Do you want to get a slide on that? Go ahead. It was up there a long time. You're going to be faster than that, okay? Just stick with me. I'm fine with that. I'm joking with you. So start with the end in mind, and I want to show you a little quick diagram that does that. Because, see, the real key is how do we go to the end? In real estate, bless you, in real estate it's very uncommon that we start with the end in mind. Yet in business, when you start a business, boy, I don't know if you did this. I don't know if you had the vision for it yet. But I know that Hobbs Herder, when we started, we weren't looking and going, hey, we're going to build a giant seminar company and be a ruler of the industry. That was not our vision. We were like trying to put some butts in seats and see if we could get a few people to stop and listen. It was just, can we say something that's not Jim Rohn, it's not Tom Hopkins, it's not somebody else? Can we say something that's unique? And can we put people in a room to listen? So we didn't have a big vision. But I can tell you our journey was longer because all we could do every day is take the next step. And then when you do the next day, you take the next step. But you don't know if it's on the right path or not. The key is that unfortunately we have no idea if that path is the right path because we didn't go to the end. And when you start a business, the biggest, smartest thing you can do is go right to the end and go, what do I want it to look like when I'm done? Even if it's not when it's done, when I'm done. What's my liquidating event? What's the time that I can step out? When can I get out of production? If that's what your goal is, when can I step out completely and have this business run itself and have all the right people in place? What is that looking like? And then let's work backwards. So let me show you what it looks like. The shortest distance between 2 points, where you are now, where you want to be someday, is a straight line. So it looks like this. We wake up and we go, I got an idea, John. I got an idea. And I take the first step. And the challenge is, on the path, straight line path to success, is it on that path? And the answer is, well, no, but I don't know it is or isn't because all I'm doing is taking the next step. In fact, I might even get somebody who observes me, Christine, It's Christine, right? Not Christina? Christina. So, Christina, I might have somebody even say, wow, that's a great move, Christina. Where'd you get that idea? You go, I thought of it myself. I mean, that was my own idea. Well, it was freaking brilliant. And it's really good. And then, of course, we wake up the next week or the next month and we do that. And the next month we do that. And the next week we wake up and do that. And next year we do that. And how are we doing on our straight line approach to success? So what we do instead, and we wake up, by the way, one day and we didn't hit the goal at all, we're tired, we're worn out, we're dead. We don't wake up, and we miss the goal entirely. That was where we were, that's where we wanted to end up, and we're going to end up somewhere else. And so the only way you're ever going to achieve this, one of the greatest diagrams I've ever seen, and that is, you're going to have to do it a different way. Greatest diagram in the world. I was going to say I skipped it. Draw this out real quickly, or take a picture of it real quick. This is a good picture to take. I'm not big on taking pictures because most of you will never look back on them. Okay, but if you do, take pictures. Otherwise, take a lot of notes. But this is a cool deal because here's the thing. Here's where I am today. Here's where I want to be someday. If I go all the way to the end and I say, in the 10 years, or in the 12 years, or the 18 years, the someday period, whatever that period is for you, I don't know what the period will be. What I know is that there's a someday. And what I want to have you do is walk backwards and pick some points along the way. Anybody golf? Anybody golf? So Dave, I don't know about you, but when I learned to golf, and I only learned when I turned 50, so I'm not a great golfer, but I learned that when I had to make a long putt, like from here to the camera back there, what I had to do is I find my line, check everything out, I find my line, but then I find a closed point. Then I'm gonna go through that point, right? Does that make sense? That's exactly what this is. It's exactly what this is. We go and we say, where do I need to be in 5 years? Such that if I'm there in 5 years, I'm on track to be there in the someday period. If the someday period is 20 years, and where do I need to be in 10 years? If I'm there in 10 years, I'm going to be there in the 20-year period. Where do I need to be in 5 years? Where do I need to be in 3 years? Where do I need to be in 2 years? Because if I can hit that point, then I'm on that track. Does that make sense? Yes or yes?
Yep.
If it doesn't, raise your hand. I'll stop. Then we come back to the 12 months, because this is where it gets very interesting for your 2020 planning, as we go from 12 months back all the way through 6 months, 1 quarter, 1 month, and then we get down to 1 week, today, and then ultimately you can wrap it right back into now. What should I be doing right now? But you can't do that if you go forward. You can only do it if you go backward. And since we're dealing with this concept of 2020, coming into 2020, how much crystal clear 2020 vision do you have when you look back? Like, how clear are you about mistakes you made in the past, or moves that you made in the past? You go, I would have never done that. I know, but at the time, right, you're always crystal clear looking back. It's the forward that's hard, yes? That's the vision. The third part is going to be your goals, and I'm not going to take any time. I'd love to do a quick goal setting thing. It's energizing, it's fun. If you haven't done your goal setting in a long time, or if you're too mature for all that, I used to set goals, and then I became an adult. Well, that's really nice, but that's not working for you. Trust me. So I'm going to suggest to you that you do a goals workshop with yourself and use this kind of looking backward approach. Think about what you really want, and then start filling in the gaps, and then saying, what do I need to do? What are the goals that will get me there? What are the goals that will lead to that path? And so I want you to maybe take a picture of this and do this workshop for yourself, do this little exercise for yourself. Again, I would love to take some time on this stuff, but I don't think we've got time for it. Just think mentally for a quick second. What new activities, new actions, what new things are you going to plug in? Like, what have you been thinking, ruminating on? I need to do more of that, or we need to get involved in that. What are the new things that are going to happen? Then look back into this year, 19. What did you do well? What did you not do well? What was the big winners? And don't get faked out. Here's a little caution for you. I remember we had this conversation so many times. You have a top producer panel. I don't know if you have them around here. I'm sure you do. There must be some board event or some company event. And so we go to a family reunion or mega camp, and they've got a panel. The trick is we listen to the panel, and depending upon where we are, sometimes we're very unrelatable because they're not talking to me where I am. They're talking about where they are, right? And sometimes they can't remember what it really took to get to that point. And they're telling you what they do now, which is really interesting, but is that the path that I'm on? Is that where I am today? And the answer is probably not. So it's really important that you go through and really think about what worked, what didn't work, and then don't get lost in what people are telling you. Look at the trends, look at your own line, go out in the future, come backwards, and figure out what's appropriate for you based on your goals, your path, etc. Does that make sense? Does it? What is success? What is success? Anybody? For you, what is success?
Doing what you want to do.
Doing what you want to do? Achieving what you want to do. I love that. Absolutely. What else? Come on, John.
Getting what you want.
Getting what you want. Where'd you hear that from? Gary. Yeah, so, Wally?
It's unencumbered by the economics. I mean, I can spend my time how I choose to spend my time without being fearful of the economics.
Yep. So what if you do that with whomever, whenever, wherever, right? Totally unencumbered. Love that. You're jumping to the conclusion, because Gary and Jay, when they wrote the book, The One Thing, which I use probably 4 or 5 books that I model almost all my time stuff after, and we're going to talk about that today. I got a chance to work with Gary on that, not on the book, but doing the courses for the book. So a lot of the stuff that was created was my stuff. That we created that. So when I look at success, I think about what is success. Success is what you want. Success is what you want. Success is what you want. It has nothing to do, like, there's no general idea, except it includes what do you want? What do you have to know? John, what do you have to know? If you're going to be successful and achieve your goal, what do you have to know?
You need to know your purpose.
You need
what you want.
Purpose, and most importantly, you need to know what you want. You can't get there if you don't know what it is. And yet most of us don't study what we want. We just get up every morning, and what do? We do what we've been doing. We do at a high level. And sometimes very actively, very aggressively. But is it really the path that we're on? I woke up one day in a mansion in Southern California, Laguna Hills, if anybody knows the area, in a place called Nellie Gay. I woke up in my almost 9,000 square foot home. And I remember it hit me, I don't even know why I'm here. This is serious. It was a serious aha. Because I realized that so much of my life had been about demonstrating to realtors how to be successful, that I was actually trying to look successful for somebody else. How empty was that? I live in Austin. We're moving to Puerto Rico, actually. There's some huge tax advantages in Puerto Rico, so we're moving. We're moving in April or so that's gonna be fun. Anyway, I digress. So, but how many times are we doing for others? I mean, I woke up with a huge awareness, and I won't get too far off track on this, but my dad was not my dad. Jim Rohn was my father. My dad was never in my life. He was just not there in an emotional fashion that was meaningful to me. And I remember when I had this house, and I remember bringing him out. I called him one day, and I said, I want you to come out and stay with us. I was married at the time, and I said, I want you to come out and stay with us. And he didn't know where I lived, he didn't know anything about my life. And I thought, this is going to be a way that I can finally get him to say, great job. Right? He's finally going to notice. So I hear the doors close outside. I parked the Bentley. We had a circular driveway, and there was a portico. And I parked the Bentley right in front. You can't miss it, right? Black, 22-inch chrome wheels, the coupe. It looks awesome. Feast your eyes on that, Pops, right? So he knocks on the door, rings the doorbell, and I go to the iron doors, and I'm waiting for the perfect moment. I don't want to do it too soon. Let him wait. And I open the doors. Hi, Dad, come on in. We do the hugs and all that. And he looks up, and he looks around the house, and he says, what do you need all this space for? I was like, I wanted to send him in his car back to Virginia, get your butt on a plane and get out of here, right? I didn't kill him. I didn't throw him out. But I wanted to, and I realized so much of it was that I was so busy trying to get him to notice that most of my mission in life was not about what I wanted. It was about how I was going to be seen by him as enough. So how many times are we moved by things that are forces beyond what we really want? That's why, John, it's so important that what you said is really true, is that we've got to figure out what we want. Does that make sense? Anybody have a father like that? Wally, you might talk a little bit about this last one because you and I were in the room when I first heard Jay talk about the Give a Million. But there's an element here to the 4 stages of growth, and I laugh with the $1 Million Club because I remember very well when I used to go, why are we acknowledging people for doing $1 million in sales? Even in the 80s, it was nothing. You were making $20-some thousand. You weren't like rich. But they were, they'd have plaques. They had plaques. People like, I was in the $1 Million Club every month this year. It's like, wow. So we have 4 stages of growth. Gary Keller said in his book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, he said, first step is sell $1 million. Second step is make $1 million. Third step gets far more interesting because we get to net $1 million. And that's not as easy as it sounds for a lot of you, but here's the thing. Wally said I've had the good fortune to work with hundreds and hundreds of people that have made more than $1 million a year. I've had the good fortune to work with lots and lots of successful people. When we started Hobbs, honestly, big, I remember Century 21's number one, and they were the number one company, number one agent in the whole world of Century 21 did $12 million. And we had people doing 30. And when we got to the point where people were starting to do 20, 25, wow, there's somebody in Tulsa did $20 million. And we were like, we got people all over the place doing 45, 50 million. Because what we did was so different, the way we did it was so different that we produced results that nobody had ever seen before. We were highly leveraged. But making $1 million was the first step. Netting $1 million was next. And Wally, talk to us about this thing called giving $1 million. It's a different mindset.
So I had a really great opportunity with Don. We coached a mastermind group in Austin. We had, the room was smaller than this, probably 40 business owners, and myself and Don and a couple other coaches. And Jay Papasan came in to do a shtick on philanthropy. I'm like, yeah, great, philanthropy, just what I need. And he made the compelling case, and it really went this way, that 70% of all giving in the world is small giving. It's little tiny incremental things. And the greatest example was the March of Dimes. The March of Dimes cured polio a dime at a time in 18 months. And Jay said something that really stuck with me, and I went home and told Tanya. And she almost didn't stick with me after I told her this. I had a mindset that said, when I'm wealthy, I'll become a philanthropist. And Jay said, I know dozens and dozens and dozens of immensely wealthy people, billionaires, and none of them became philanthropists. They all started with a philanthropic heart and a philanthropic mindset and became wealthy as a result. Some of you may have been in the programs Dave and I were doing on strategic philanthropy with Best Buddies and Rethreaded and some of the other things. It's mind-boggling. I went home and said to my wife after I got back being with Don, I said, honey, good news. We're philanthropists. And she said, that's great news. Where are you getting the money? And I said, I spent time with Jay, and he made it clear in my mind that if you have a giving heart and you're giving, suddenly you backfill with more money. I can tell you as a company and as an individual, we have grossed more money than I've ever grossed in my life. And I have earned more money, netted more money into my household than I ever had in my life after spending time with Jay and just embracing that idea of strategic philanthropy and giving. And, thanks for letting me share.
That's perfect. No, I love it. Thank you. So, how many want to be givers? How many are philanthropists? It's not the amount. Roman used to say, teach kids what to do with the dollar. Because what they do with the dollar is what they're going to do with $100 million. It's what they're going to do with $1 million. You teach them what to do with it. 10% goes here, 10% goes there, 10%. If you don't learn what to do with the dollar, you'll never have the procedure. You'll never have the way to operate, right? So that's what that's really about. You can be a philanthropist as a kid. You can be a philanthropist.
Let me share something really quick. I got to tell you this. So Don is a lifelong Lakers fan. And I wanted to imagine Don sitting center court down there watching the Lakers, and he's cheering, he's cheering, he's cheering. He's all excited, and Kobe's having a great game. And all of a sudden, Kobe's got to go to the foul line. And he looks over and he says, Don, take those shots for me. That's what you just gave me, buddy. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
That's cool.
That's awesome. Okay, let's do a sprint through some stuff. This is a cool diagram. I remember the day that I read the book. So Gary was hiring me to come in to create a company with him. And he said, I'm sending you the book. The book wasn't published yet. I got the reader's copy of it. And I remember seeing this diagram. And I remember, honestly, I had the biggest aha. It was like, oh my gosh. I've taught this for years. I've taught it. I've said it. I've believed it. You're not through. The diagram's not through yet. You're going to want to take a different picture. But what I realized was that this was the demonstration of something I've believed forever. And that is that there's no correlation between how hard we work and how much we make. How many believe that? I won't ask how many of you are living that, because most of us go, I got to work harder. I got to work harder. So I remember this diagram came, and I have some different words that I use around it, but this thing that says, first of all, bigger vision. We talked about vision. Bigger vision leads to bigger actions. How many believe that? That if you have a bigger vision, you're going to take bigger actions. And if you take bigger actions, by the way, it's going to require bigger relationships, and you're going to be looking for bigger relationships. How many agree with that? And then, of course, you get to the point where bigger relationships, you're going to have to start forming some bigger habits, because the small habits that we live with as we grow up, the smaller habits aren't going to get us where we want. The big habits are the ones that are going to make us the wealth that we want, or the business that we want, and of course, the big results. So let's just pretend that I want to start in real estate, not this room, maybe the room this afternoon, perhaps, where there's some newer agents or younger agents or smaller agents in terms of productivity, and they're saying something like, I just want to have a nice little business. Oh, isn't that nice? I want to have a nice little business, right? Just want to have a nice little business. So how inspired are you when you want to create a nice little business? There's not a lot of inspiration in that. If you're going to have anybody on your team, which you probably don't even need anybody for your nice little business, because all you're going to do is sell a few homes. If I could just sell 10, 12, 15 homes a year, that'd be great. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that may be the mission or the vision of the person, but the reality is most people just have a small vision, and if they ever knew they could accomplish more, they'd go for it. But they don't think that way. So what I recognize is that people have this small goal, and they take small actions, and if they're finding anybody along the path, it's going to be small people. They're not looking for anybody big. They're looking for somebody to fill the desk. They're not looking for my $80,000 a year personal assistant. They're not looking for that. Why would they? So then let's take the second part to this, which is the big, hairy, audacious goal, the BHAG. I was going to say another word, but I won't. So let's take this BHAG and put it up there on the screen and say, so that's what your vision is. That's your goal. There's your mission. There's your big thing. What kind of actions are you taking to get to that? And the answer is, what kind of actions do you have to take to get to that? Big, audacious, hairy, audacious ones, right? And what kind of people do you want to have join your team? What kind of people do you want to bring to the party? What kind of people do you need to be part of your vision? Big people, people who think big. People who push me, right? That come in and they want to do more. I'm like, hey, cool your heels here, junior men. It's like, no, somebody that we allow to be as big as they want. And what starts to happen is you have this ideology that says it's time and effort. And if I just put in this time and effort, draw that line real quickly, and then draw a line from there straight up. I'm pushing the wrong button here. This one. So draw that line, because that line intersects both small actions on the way to small result and big actions on the way to big result. And the truth is, the time and energy has nothing to do with success. Does that make sense? You see it? When I saw that, I was like, I'm telling you, it was like a V8 moment. Because I could see totally that this was proof positive that there was nothing we could do that had to do with time and energy. The only thing we can impact is on the other side there. So let's draw one more line in there for these two. One, the small thinking, and two, the big thinking. And there's the diagram picture you want to take. Because that's really what it comes down to, is how we think will dictate the results we get. If we think small, we'll get small. If we think big, we'll get big. And I'm telling you that that's the exercise in itself, which means, what are you doing to grow you? What are you doing to create bigger capacity? What are you doing to think differently? I made a comment about Gary Keller himself. I remember saying this like 20 years ago. I've been friends with Gary. I was the first speaker for the first convention for Keller Williams when they had 350 people in the whole company. And I remember meeting Gary and just being impressed with him and saying, what a big thinker. And I used to fly in from Orange County, California to Austin just to have lunch with him and fly home. And I'd go back to my partner and go, who thinks like that? He thinks so big. But I remember saying of him one time, I said, he connects dots most people don't even see. And I want you to hear that, because what that meant to me was he sees things in things that you and I completely miss. He sees things because his awareness is so high. And I've met many people like that through the years that have keen awareness. Tony Robbins is one of them. He's a big thinker, right? He's just huge. And what happens is he sees opportunities in things that you and I would walk right past, because he's got a different awareness. And he pulls in different information and goes, oh, you know what? That plus that equals success. Or that plus that would be a company. Or that plus that is a great thing. And for you and I, we go, I don't see anything here. But what's really important is it's the bigger the thinking that we've got, it's not the time and effort. And so if you'll remember that, I want you to really get committed to taking a lot more time off and stop getting involved in so much stuff that's pulling you in. Stop worrying about working harder and start thinking about working more strategically. I don't want to just fall back on the work smarter, not harder. It's not that. It's more than that. But that's what we've got to get to. So here's your workshop exercise that I'd love to have you do by next Friday. And that is, I want you to really go through and create a goal set. And I want you to do it based on several things. Write these down real quickly. So I'd like you to look seriously at your year this year. What went right? What went wrong? Next year, what do you want? What are things you want to take part in you have not up to this point? John, you're welcome to come back to your seat. Your journal's up here.
Taking notes on my phone.
Okay. So those two things would be important. The next thing I would do is I would look very carefully at your values and start connecting your values, those most important things to you. Family is so important to me. I never see them. I'm out all the time, but they're so important to me. Well, let's get those things in alignment. If family is really important, then how much family time are you spending? Right? Let's get things in order. So let's figure out what the values are and then set goals around them. And of course, there's also some things like this. I don't know if I put the wheel of life in here. I don't think I did. But here's what I do know, is that so often we're setting these goals up, we're setting this stuff up, and you guys, I don't care what level you're at, there's a level at which there's pushback. Christina, I don't know if you have felt that at all in your world of expansion, but there's that place where you've got to go through another comfort zone, and another comfort zone. And you're huge, and everybody goes, oh, you're amazing, but you're still pushing through your comfort zone, right? And there's another barrier, and another barrier. I remember when Greg Herder and I bought an $80,000, I'm embarrassed to say this now, we bought an $80,000 typesetting machine. At the time it was an important tool in our business. We bought an $80,000 machine. It was so far ahead of anything we could ever afford to buy. It was like $80,000. Are you kidding me? But we knew that was going to make the next move for us. Uncomfortable, signing on the dotted line, I mean, all that stuff, very hard to push, but we knew that we had to do it. And I'm telling you that really, in the end, you've got to start thinking about your vision is bigger than your beliefs. And what happens is you're going to get pushback. It's going to be that part of you which says, I can't play that big, I can't be that much, I can't do that much, there's no way that I can do that. And stop thinking in terms of time. That'll save a lot of your processing. Because so many of us, I can't work any harder. I don't want you to. I want you to start thinking instead of acting. I want you to start strategizing. You don't get to $100 million by acting more. You get there by acting less and thinking more. That's the only way to get bigger, is to think more. The other thing that I learned very much from a lot of my mentors, Jim Rohn was one of them, Tony Robbins has been one of my good friends for so long. I mean, that dude, I remember I was joking with him the other day, and I said, dude, I beat you every month in sales. I beat you. My group beats you every month in sales. I said, in the end, you won the game. Right? He's done bigger than I have done. Right? You win. I'll give that to you. I'm asking you to be on my podcast. I get it. Right? I'm happy that you're coming. But in the end, it's about shooting for more, shooting for bigger, shooting for beyond. And if you miss, at least you shot for the moon and you've gone for something big instead of playing small, shooting small, and going, got it. So for each and every one of you, there's that place where you've got to get beyond that. Ron told me a lot about goal setting, and he had a lot of great information around it. But one thing he said is don't shoot for too low. But what he equated it to, and I want you to get this gist, is what he equated it to was you don't become enough if you don't shoot for more. Like it affects who you are, it affects who you become. If I shoot for bigger, I've got to be bigger. I've got a gal who just broke her individual record, and we just put her in a place where out of hundreds and hundreds of people in our company, she's now number 5. And I said to her, so this year you're going to almost double that again in 2020. Here's the question. Who do you need to be different from who you are today to have that happen? Who do you need to be? There's the place to go. Who do you need to be to get that? Not what do I need to do. Who do I need to be different from who I am today, how I'm acting today, the things that I'm thinking today? Who do I need to be different from that to make where I want to go possible? Number 2 is about creating rituals. I'm going to spend just a little time on this, and then we're going to start sprinting until we get to marketing. Creating ritual, my morning ritual. I will tell you I didn't have it this morning. I missed my flight. I didn't miss my flight. My connection missed my flight, but I missed my flight. Ultimately got in here late last night, about 2 o'clock in the morning. So when Wally said he wanted to have 7:30 breakfast, I was not excited about getting up and doing my typical workout and all that stuff. So today I skipped. I'm just going to confess.
I worked out.
But I will tell you that my morning ritual is pretty substantial, and I have many things that I do. And I want to share part of my mission or my vision for that with you. You don't have to do it. You can do your own. You'll come up with your own stuff. You'll see it your own way. Some of the things will seem redundant. Some of the things will seem not your style at all. That's okay, but I want to share with you, because what I do know is this. If you want to create a bigger life, you have to create momentum. We're going to talk about momentum today. You have to create momentum. And in your day, you have to create momentum. And the best time to create momentum for your day would be when? First thing. So I like it in youth sports. Yes, I was a huge Lakers fan. I moved to Texas. Now I've become a Houston Rockets fan, and I kind of moved away from all that. But I had a Laker locker room built in my house. I was a bit of a fan, right? I was a little bit of a fan. There were signed jerseys and signed shoes and signed balls and tape and all that stuff. It was like you walked in, it was just like the locker room. I went into the locker room, took a picture and modeled it, right? It was exactly like that. All the Hall of Fame jerseys. I was a little fanatical. Plus, I had a lot of other stuff. I had like a 30,000 square foot museum of stuff. It was cool. But what I recognize is that in sports, it's all about momentum. I watched the Lakers, actually. Funny story that I hadn't seen the Lakers play in the whole season. I watched them play against Dallas, and they came back and rallied from 12 points down and won the game. But what I noticed in the middle of that was the momentum that was created. They were 12 points down. Nobody feels good. We're all walking around, moping around, right? They're not playing hard. They're not in it. And then somebody makes a shot that electrifies the team, and then they got the high fives, they got the belly bumps, they got the slaps on the ass, they got all that stuff going on. It's exciting. They're in Dallas, by the way, so they have no fans rooting for them, not many anyway. So they're not feeding off the crowd, they're feeding off themselves. So what's it like for you? Every day you don't get to feed off the crowd, you get to feed off yourself. If you've got a team, maybe you come in and we're energized, but for the most part, you're the energy creator. You're the visionary. So you walk into the stadium, in the arena, whether it's a football stadium or a basketball arena, and you watch these people, these guys, and they've got headphones on. So what are they doing? What's that all about? Well, I don't know. It could be a psychologist who's in their head about the free throws they've been yipping on, right? If you know the golf term yipping, right? So it could be that. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. It could be their favorite rap music that's really pumping them up. Well, what do you suspect is going on as it pertains to ritual? Because I'm guessing it's not accidental what they're playing. I'm guessing that the routine, when Kobe came to the arena and he went out immediately and shot around before anybody got in the stadium, he was there before anybody else was there, and then he went into the gym and he worked out. I don't know how these guys work out and then go play, but they do. They go work out, pump up the muscles, and then they go work out. Tiger Woods goes into the gym, works out, and then goes and plays a round of golf. There's a ritual. Do you have a ritual? Do you have a daily thing you do that when you get to game time, you're on? So that's what I want to show you real quickly. The off button is right below the front forward thing. So your morning ritual, 5 to 6 days a week. I don't know if you're working 5 days a week, 5 to 6 days a week. By the way, if you're on a 4-day week, sorry, I'm off camera. If you're on a 4-day week deal and 4 days a week, great. Whatever your vision is, that's great. but I want you to have the ritual on those days. Now, you can do it on the other days, should you choose to, but the reality is, we're talking about a game time ritual. Kind of a game prep ritual. So energizing your morning, visualizing, practicing. If you've got a script that you use, then do you have a rehearsal partner? Like, what are you doing to get in ready, game ready mode? So here's the way my day goes, and here's what I want to do. I want to focus you on these things, but I want you to jump right over here to the last one, which is number 14, says go to work. So the reason I want you to get to that is because you have to start with the end in mind. You have to start at the end. So my question is, what time is game time for you? What time is game time for you? Is it 8:30? 8 o'clock? 7:30? 8:30? If you say past 9 o'clock, I'm going to say you need to change your routine. You can't just wander in. See, remember, there's very little difference between self-employed and unemployed, so it shows up in places like that. We just wander in. I have nothing on the schedule, so I just come in whenever I need to. No, you come in because it's game time. The tip-off is at 7 o'clock, or 7:05, or 7:30, depending upon the arena. Tip-off is always going to be that time. And you've got to be in game-ready position. So when you have an 8:30 time, you start there and you say, okay, let's work backwards through all these things. And ultimately, you're going to take and reverse engineer your whole morning to include the things that you want to do, and you're going to come up with a time called wake up early. But you can't start and go on and wake up at 5 o'clock. I don't know if 5 o'clock's enough. I don't know if 5 o'clock is too much. Sleep is a big deal too. So my question is, what is it that's going to work for you? Well, I tell you, waking up early is a big deal. First of all, the earth is quieter, there's more stillness, there's more peace, it's a great time, which is why I put right in there meditation and prayer. By the way, prayer to me is talking to God. Meditation to me is listening to God, and unfortunately a lot of people I don't think listen, they just talk. I'm going to suggest that both are important. Having a gratitude journal, that's a great time to get in your mind what you're grateful for. It's a great time to tune in to gratitude, because gratitude starts to expand your mind. When you start thinking about what you're grateful for already, it begins to expand your thinking. When you are thinking about what you don't have, it shrinks you. It puts you in mode of survival. Not a great place to come from when you're trying to build something. I've got morning questions for you, and I've got evening questions, which we'll talk about in a second. Warm water. This morning I did warm water, I meditated, I did many of these things, but I didn't do the workout. I'm just confessing.
What's warm water?
Warm water just energizes the system. It flushes the system, much different than cold water. And so just a little 8-ounce glass. I typically do 80 ounces of water a day, but the first 8 is warm. So it's just a simple thing to flush the system. By the way, getting protein in your body right away too. Something that gets protein in your body is a really good thing. Fire up not the immune system, but the body. So reading 15 minutes. By the way, if reading is listening for you, and then listening can be done while you're moving, working out, walking on a treadmill, running, whatever it is you do, that's fine. You can join these things. But I don't mean you need to here's all the time. It's like, whatever. It's not called multitasking. It's, it takes no brains to run. As long as you don't trip. So then there's the inspirational listening. There's breakfast, because when I come back from the gym, I got to fuel the body. When I don't eat, it's amazing how quickly I'm off track. It doesn't work. The body doesn't work. It's used up. It's burnt up all this energy, and you don't put anything back. You got to put something in. So then we get to the connecting. So connecting with, in my case, Alice, I'm going to connect. If you have a big family, you connect. You have breakfast together. You do whatever it is. But you've done your thing before most of them have even gotten up. And then you connect. And I left the number 12 in there. It could be any place. It could be any place you see a thing. It could be morning sex for all I care. It's whatever it is, right? It's whatever feels right to you, whatever fits in your morning ritual. Then we get dressed. I know, woo, exactly. And then you get dressed, and however long that takes. And I know for some people it takes long, and for some people it takes short, or whatever it is. And by the way, I remember Charles Gibbons wrote a book years ago, and he talked about how he shortened his getting dressed period just because it was a lot of time. I know people that you never have a bad hair day, right? It saves you a lot of time.
24 hours a day, I look this good.
Exactly, right? I know with me, it's like I have a bad hair day, and it takes a little time, right? But I know for women, it takes longer many times because they got more of it. So again, think, what's my morning ritual? What do I expect? What do I want to have happen? How many think if you had done all of this before your start time of what, 8:30? 9? 8? How many think you'd feel great about your day before you got into it? How many are committed to doing something that resembles a ritual like this? How many are committed to it? Raise your hands higher. I mean, this is like the camera's on you guys, okay? It's catching everything. We're going to know exactly the alligator arm. No, me. So if you're in, you're in. But I'm telling you that if you start doing this, it changes life. And I'll tell you the other thing. I've got a lot of people who start waking up earlier, and waking up earlier is one of the keys to energy. When you wake up late, you start late for the day. It's like you're just late for everything. It just starts that way. You want to actually be more productive, just get up in the morning earlier and do whatever you want to do, and you'll be better. So here's your morning questions. I'm going to take a picture. They're available on the Facebook group. What I'm grateful for, keeping a journal of it. I have a purple journal next to my nightstand, which is where I go the night before I go to sleep. And in the morning when I wake up, that's my journal for gratitude. I keep it separate from everything else because it's just this bundle of love. It's just cool. By the way, highest vibrations of the world. Highest vibrations are love and gratitude. Lowest vibrations, anger and fear. You spend your time up here. You don't get time to spend down here. It's awesome. You elevate your thinking automatically. You start seeing things, possibilities, things fall in your lap, things happen. Accidentally, coincidentally. You have a lot of accidental success. Getting younger and younger, my health, sorry. I don't know that I set that up to do that. Then I've got your evening questions, which are also going to be in there. So again, don't take pictures of it. You'll see it in the handouts. All right, so culture. If you guys are going to build from wherever you are today, if you're already a big player, you've got a great team, you're building something of substance, you're at 7, 8, 10, 12, 15, $25 million, you want to go bigger, one of the next things you've got to work on is your culture. Most people don't talk about culture, think about culture. Culture is a big deal. I guarantee that the guys at the back of the room that have these successful companies talk about culture in their organizations. I guarantee it's a big factor. People love to work at Hobbs. They loved to work there. They didn't want to ever leave. It was like family. They were connected to it. They just admired it. They loved coming to work. They loved being there. The clients felt it. Everybody felt energized because our company, people loved it. Why? Because we built a very strong, tight culture. We expected great things, but it held people to high levels, and what they did is they achieved at a high level. So culture is a big part of it. So I want to just give you a couple things. Number one, by the way, write down culture. When you start thinking about culture, it is cultish. Great success, Apple's a cult. How many believe that? I don't mean a cult in the religious sense, but Apple's a cult. Right? Things of high value become cults. Why? Because they created that. I've never owned one, but how many know what's the silver trailer? Is that Streamline? What's it called? Airstream. Airstream is a cult. There's Airstreamers, there's streamers, and there's dreamers. The dreamers are the ones who wish they had a stream, and streamers are the ones that own one, right? That's watch their stuff, and you're going to hear exactly those words. They're creating a movement. It is a culture. You start creating a culture, your business is going to grow. You don't think about culture, your business will stay the same because there's no vision, there's no inspiration, there's nothing behind it that pushes you or the people in it. People want to be part of something much bigger than themselves, and that's one of the keys. They want to be part of something big. They want to be part of something that's beyond them. And the bigger you think, the more attractive it is to more people. By the way, movements on negative side and positive side. Cults, right? We think of Jonestown, we think of things. Yes, in their world, those were big deals, right? They were getting swept up in the energy of it. Can you create that on a positive side? The answer, of course you can. Of course you can. Tony Robbins has got a cult. That's why he does so well. That's why he's put 50 million people through his seminars. He's built a cult. And I don't mean that, again, in a negative fashion. It's a positive thing. Culture will help bring talent to the projects, and that's one of the things that most of us have missed, is that culture is what attracts. If you want to hire talent, one of the most important things is vision and culture. Why would I be inspired to join you? And if you don't have people around you that are great people, Wally, what's your chances of success?
0.
0. No one succeeds alone. Everybody needs people. Everybody needs great talent. By the way, these guys are part of your team. You don't have to hire everybody directly. You can hire a team by getting the right people on the bus. How many think that both Wally and Dave are part of a great team? So I want you to really start today to think about the results that you want to create, and then what are the factors that are going to build that? What are the pieces that are going to make that happen? This is a good diagram to take a picture of, because you're probably not going to get it all in notes. Influence, trust, I mean, look at the pieces. Mindset, energy, vision. All founded on your purpose and your vision and mission and values and beliefs and the big picture of, by the way, ultimately the inner being of leadership. That's you. It's your inner being. It's who you are. People want to be around you. Are you going live with something? So, be a developer of people, yes, that's a big part of culture. All right, so let's jump, let's keep going. Building internal culture, building internal stuff. What are you doing with your people, for your people? How are you showing up? I've got people that are big monster players who've never taken care of their team, and they wonder why they have turnover. They wonder why they can't build something of substance long term. It's because they're not taking care of the people. Culture is an attractor, it's a retainer. You got to pass power between teammates. Yesterday I was on the phone coaching with a group up in Oregon, and there's 7 agents and the lead agent, and there was 2 of the assistants, marketing people and all that. We were all on the phone together. And I said, you guys have got to realize that in the end, you've got to pass power between each other. When Jamie takes a listing and he says, you know, I don't know the name, Mary or whatever, I said, and Mary's going to be the person that's going to follow up. She's our transaction coordinator. She's our whatever that position is called. And she's going to know, like, listen, you want me out in the field meeting people to find the buyer for your house? She's the one that's going to know the stuff. But when Mary calls, what's Mary saying? Jamie asked me to call you. So everybody's passing power back and forth. We're making everybody look better because we're working together with one energy. And that's the vision and the piece of culture that starts to make a big difference. And by the way, I did add a couple things down there. Cards internal. I was very often the guy who was walking around. I had my assistant used to sit outside my desk, outside my office, and she would sit there, and it was near the exit to our offices. And people would be walking by. Christina and I were going to lunch, and we'd be talking about the weekend and what they were doing, and she'd hear stuff, and she'd make notes, and she'd tell me later, so-and-so's going to Mexico for the weekend, or so-and-so, and I go back and I'd say, so what are you doing this weekend? Or, you know, but I'd want to go engage in conversation with them because I wanted people to feel a part. I wanted them to know that they were noticed. I wanted them to see that they were important to me. So I had people watching out for me to help me make them important. Right? It's a system. But you can't do that if you don't have the heart for it. You aren't going to even work at it. Leaving a card on somebody's desk, sending flowers. We used to take people on the road. We come to Miami. Where'd you see me? Orlando. Come to Orlando, we bring a big team of our people. You might remember we had people, all over the place, right? We'd send flowers to their spouses and say, thank you for letting us borrow Mark for the week. Like they were taking a lot of time out of their family. We wanted to acknowledge the people at home. How do you think that played out when the employee got a call from the spouse that said, they sent me flowers, it's unbelievable, you work for a great company. Who wants to leave that company? The answer is nobody. We couldn't get rid of them sometimes. We wanted to. We couldn't sometimes. So, leverage. If you're going to operate at a high level, if you want to move to the next place, you want to get to that next step, it's going to be more leverage. And whatever you're doing now is not that level of leverage. It's more leverage. How can you do less and be bigger? How can you do less? How can you be more strategic? How can you think more, work less? There's 4 ways. Systems, processes, that's one. I throw time in there and I almost make it its own thing, but it's still a system. It's a process. Time is a system, right? It is a system. System for transactions. Working with before getting a buyer, after the transaction, post listing, pre-listing, during the listing. What's your process? right? You need a process for all of that. All those things are operational things you need to work out. We next have marketing. Marketing is a great leverage point. The point that most people miss about marketing is it's not an expense and it's not just getting business. It's multiplying me. It's working when I'm not. It's getting where I can't. And it's consistent when I'm absolutely not able to. So it's going to do things for you that you can't do on your own. It's not a sales effort. It's not making calls. It's getting people to call you. Who would like to have more of them calling you than you calling them? Okay, I'm going to ask that again because there was like 6 hands. Who would like to have a lot more people calling you than you calling them? It changes the game entirely. You know, when you get branded to a certain point, we're going to talk marketing, when you get branded to a certain point and people are calling for you, they're waiting for you, they'll wait for you, they'll pay whatever you charge. I got agents that'll walk in with a 10% contract. And if they negotiate, it's down to 8%. How many would love to have 8% listings? When most people are clamoring they can't get 6. Happy to get 5, 5.5. I know people are in the 4.5, 5 range. That's because you have no value. Why? Because you're building your business in ways that don't support value. So everything is about making sure this works. People, no one succeeds alone. Therefore, we need the right people on the bus. We need to get the wrong people off the bus. And the last one is your personal growth, and we'll talk about that. So I'm going to go through these relatively quickly because I want to just make sure we get to the stuff at the end. Listen, systems. If you ever do it again, if it's a second time, create a system for it. Biggest challenge is we don't have a system for most things that we need systems for. If you have an assistant or a team and they have to come to you to get things approved, if there's a mistake or there's somebody that needs to spend a little money and they have to come to you to get everything approved, that's a bad system. Give them a dollar figure and say, listen, if it's anything less than $500, make the decision. Just do what you got to do. Right? Whatever it is, create a system for it so that people know what they can do and you'll empower everybody in your organization. A system is a standardized process for getting a consistently custom result. How does that work? That should be magic. What is magic? That's what makes systems so awesome. You get this process that we do again and again, but it gets a custom feel to it. And that's really the secret. Everything happens through time. And this is one of the systems. So I kind of separated systems and time, but time is a system. How you operate in time is a system. Everything happens in time, through time, with time. There's nothing that isn't that way. So my time aha was severalfold, but one of them was, I remember being with Jim Rohn. I'm 19 years old, and I'm sitting in hotels, big, beautiful hotels with these giant chandeliers, places I'd never been. I wasn't raised on the wrong side of the tracks, but I was right there near the tracks. It was right kind of on that side. And I'd never been in places. When I saw Jim Rohn at the seminar the first time, a teenager walking into a big ballroom with all these business people, it was like a weird place to be. But I saw and loved, and I just was like, I want that. And in fact, I walked up to him and I said, I want to do what you do. It was my break time conversation with Rohn. I want to do what you do. So I saw it instantly. I just got it. Like, that's what I want to do. But in the end, I realized as I was kind of getting to that point of 1 year, 2 years in, that everything I was seeing was the most successful people that I was able to work with. They all had the same amount of time as the people that were the biggest losers I'd ever known. So it was never a matter of how much time we had. It's what we do with that energy called time. It's what we do in the time. It's the time of our life. What do you do with the time of your life? How are you manufacturing more time for your life? Well, you don't manufacture. What you do is eliminate things that you shouldn't be doing, and you find more time in things that you want to do, wish to do, can do, should be doing. There I am, by the way. Who can pick me up? There's Rohn, by the way, for those that haven't seen him, at bottom right, and I'm right behind him. That's 21 years old, Wally. That's me. Rocking it. Notice that Tony's not in the picture. He got beat that month. I beat him again.
You had a Minshew mustache. That's good here.
You met me when I had a goatee, I think. Yeah, I had a goat for a while. Anyway, okay, marketing is a system. So I want to go through some things quickly here. But I want to do a whole thing on branding in just a few minutes or a little while. So marketing. You got to create a winning brand, for sure. Everything is about brand. Brand. Be thinking through brand. Everything you do is about your brand. Every system you set up is about your brand. Everything moves for your brand to win. Everything is about you and your brand. You are the brand, by the way. People is a big deal. People is going to be the greatest asset you've got. And by the way, not just your own team, but the people that you work with. Wally, Dave, I mean, like, make sure you've got the best of the best. Like, bring a lot of great people into your world so that everybody that touches people for you touches them in your same culture. That touches people in a way that represents you. Tell your vendors how you want your clients to be treated, what they can say to inspire people to know they're working with the right agent. Like, work with people on building that, because everything is about brand and everything is about the people using that and bringing that forward. Leverage to others is one of the greatest assets you'll ever have. You can't do it all. You'll never get bigger than probably $12 to $15 million by yourself, and everything above that's going to be through others. It's all about talent. Yes, personal growth. This is one that I want to stop on for just a second. Personal growth is a big deal, and I never hear it. I hear leverage conversations lots of times. I never hear anybody talking about us. It's the me. So how is it that you are leverage? How does that work? How many have noticed that over the past few years you can feel that you're bigger than you used to be? You make bigger decisions. You think bigger. I've got a guy that's working with me right now. I said, can you believe where you are today? And remember when we met 2 years ago? You don't even have thoughts like that anymore. Like, there's nothing of your old life that is how you're living today. So my mentor, not Jim Rohn, but the president of the company at that time was a guy named Ken Lutz. And Ken was an engineer by trade. He was an instructor at the General Motors University, an engineer. And he used to talk in engineering terms. I didn't always get what he said, but this one I got. And he said to me when I was like 19, he said, so it's like a pipe, engineer. It's like a pipe. And he said, you got a pipe. And he said, you're going to have flow through, whatever the flow through is. I don't care if it's juice or water or oil or whatever it's going to be, or waste, right? There's a flow through the pipe. So he says, at some point you get to where you've got as much through it as you can get through it. You reach capacity. What happens if you push and pressurize it through capacity? What happens? It bursts. What happens? Yeah, you're spraying a leak, right? It can just erupt. It's rupture. He said, what happens if you expand the pipe? You push the same flow through, yet you don't feel any pressure. How is that related to you?
You control what you put in your mind and how much you can put in your mind.
So what if you put the same flow through all your workflow, but you're a bigger person? You don't feel any pressure. I'm very capable of handling this. I can do this in my sleep. By the way, what do you think Bill Gates' capacity for that is? What do you think Gary Keller's like in that capacity? I mean, as much as I don't like Dave Lineker, I mean, he's had to learn how to build capacity that's greater than where he was when he was 2 offices. It's just a fact. You've got to work on you. You've got to build you to a point where that becomes one of the multipliers. You can expand you. You see things. Your awareness is higher. You see opportunities. You connect dots. Right? That's you. So all of that is a piece that I really want you to get today because it's a big deal. Now, we had this handout. What did we do with it, Wally? Did we pass it out?
Is there?
Okay, so actually, all of you were standing around. I totally forgot that I wanted you to fill it out while you were here. You don't have to fill it out while you're here, but it'd be great if you do. Put your name on it if you want me to look at it. And give me a phone number. Put your name on it and give me a phone number. Don't do it now because it's like 10 minutes. But let's, by the way, the big side. The big side, the better. Well, you want to tell the story of the big side versus the small side?
No.
No. So I want you to get this homework done, and if you want to do it before you leave, like we're going to be kind of at lunchtime, if you wanted to sit for a few minutes, fill it out, you want to give it to me, I'm happy to take it. It's a great way for me to be able to feedback through your Facebook or something, to communicate with you. If you give me a phone number, I'll text you, give you some thoughts on what I'm seeing, or set up a quick voice broadcast, not voice broadcast, voice text to you, and leave you some feedback on it, right? I can do all that for you. Happy to do it for this group. I don't want to do it for like everybody I meet, but I'll do it for you guys. But I'd really like you to go through and really assess yourself on these things. Remember, self-assessment. I'm not judging. Don't worry about it. If you have a low number, it's a low number. It's just something where you're not that good yet. Now, this is the part where Jim really impacted me. First night I ever met him, I took 19 pages of notes in a stenographer's notebook, if anybody even knows what a stenographer's notebook is. And one of the notes I wrote was, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. To me, that was a golden key. It was like, stop working harder in what you do. Start working harder on who's doing it. When you become bigger, when you become better, when you become greater, everything gets smoother, everything gets easier. And here's what happens. You've got some top players here in the room, and I won't mention names, but there's some great agents with some great productivity. And when you look at them and you go, wow, look at their productions, like, I can't figure out how they're so productive. Like, they're not any better than I am. I used to have people tell me all the time, like, she's not any better than I am. I'm like, well, there's something different because you're at 3 million and they're at 32 million. There's something different. And what you come to realize is that it's not all we see on the top side of this thing is the performance and their behavior. We look at that. What we don't see is what's below it. And this is where your greatest depth is. This is your personal growth, right? This is how you think. This is your behaviors, your ability to understand your emotions. By the way, there's a great book. I recommend many books, and I'm going to recommend this one to all of you. Because so many of us don't realize when we're being held back by internal stuff. Right? I mean, Tony might say, just change your past. Let's do some NLP and we'll just change your past. Well, that's interesting, but it doesn't always rewire you at a soul level, at a heart level. It's a mental thing. We can rewire the brain. You can't rewire the cells. So I'm going to suggest to you a book called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. Now, whether you read the book or not, it's on my top 100. It's not on my top 10 by far. And I will tell you that the title alone should inspire you. Because the title says, what you don't realize is that the emotions that you feel, the childhood stuff, the dad stuff, the mom stuff, all that stuff is looming. It's there. It doesn't go away. You can ignore it. You can put a nice bow on it. You can pat it down. You can do whatever. But it comes up, and it comes up, and it comes out sideways. It comes out passive-aggressive. It comes out in anger. It comes out in lack of performance. It comes out in health issues. It comes out in weight issues. It comes out in all kinds of ways. But it's going to come out. The title says, Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. They're there. So we've got to go figure out what we're going to do about them. And by the way, of course, we change our physiology, and that has to do with how we move our bodies. It has to do with the energetic part of our lives. And when you change the energy, you begin to change a lot. But we can impact this, which then achieves a different level of behavior and performance. But we can't just work on performance and behavior and expect the results to be there in the same way. We've got to work at the undercurrent. We've got to work beneath the surface for us to really get the results we want. So if you're in a place right now where you're at a plateau of some kind, whether it's in a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year plateau, and you can't seem to get above it, that's where you look. All right, 3 things, and then we're going to get on to the next piece. What time is it? Can we have another 2 hours?
Yes.
Can we go potty? I'm not going to take a break, but you can go potty. You don't have to even raise your hands. You can just go. I trust you. I know. I'm glad.
Hi, buddy.
And he didn't raise his hand or anything. He just went because he just knew he had to. You guys getting anything out of this?
Yes.
We'll just stay here. We won't say anything until you get back. When she comes back, when the door opens, just go crazy. Just like, that's awesome. Pump up, okay? She'll be like, what did I miss? Don't tell her. Okay? What's that? All right, so 3 things, right? 3 things that make the big difference. 3 questions you want to ask. Number 1, who do I need to be different? I asked that question earlier. Who do I need to be different from who I am today? Who do I need to be? The next piece is, what do I need to do different from what I've done in the past? Who do I need to be different from who I'm showing up as now? What do I need to do different from what I've been doing in the past? Oops, right above it. And what habits do I need to build? And that's probably the essence of it. The reality of it is that's the question. What habits do I need to form? What are the habits that will take me to where I want to go? Success can be, gotten in little actions, but if you don't form the habit around the action, then you'll have success, not success, success, not success. You'll have good months, bad months, good months, bad months. Okay, you're ready when that door opens, right? Go crazy, okay? You guys do it? You guys get it? And then you need to be triggered. You hear it, you just go crazy, okay? You won't ever know what happened. Here's your exercise. Here's your action step. Here's your A that you put on your notes. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go through and figure out what are the changes that you want to make this next year. Starting now, like starting this next 9 days, we're going to write this down. What are the actions that I want to do differently than I've done in the past? What are those things that we're really going to work on? Make a list. And then I want to start figuring out how to get those into the form of habit through time. It won't happen all at once, but through the next year, how do we work those in to be habitual things? By the way, you are awesome at habits. You are creatures of habit. You're tremendous when it comes to habits. The challenge is most of your habits have been formed subconsciously, unconsciously. When you start getting purposeful and create habits that you want instead of habits you have. I was talking to a guy yesterday, just took him on as a brand new coaching client, and he's got some very negative behaviors and thoughts. And he said, it's just kind of how I've always been. I said, that's bullshit. Sorry. I don't usually say that kind of stuff in front of the room, but I was just quoting what I said yesterday. And what I said to him is, that's bull. That's BS. That's the story you've told yourself. That's what you've allowed yourself to do. Personality is a learned behavior. Personality was a response to something you learned at an early age. You become the class clown because you're not getting enough attention. You become a class clown. One day you become a great comedian. Still miserable inside, you find yourself committing suicide. Who might that be? And Richard Pryor and how many more? Why do you think they're so funny? They're covering up for what? The pain. So we don't want to just eliminate that stuff. We don't just want to cover it. We want to eliminate it. Okay, well that's the biggest thing I'm going to tell you the whole day. Okay, if you get that, you've got everything. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Show me that slide again.
Oh, we deleted it. That was just for you. That's fine. They didn't get anything any better. I know. I'm a prankster at heart, and I have the luxury of being able to do that. All right. So here's your habit formation. Take a picture of that real quick. I actually do not have this diagram in the homework, so this is a good picture to take. And probably one thing that you're going to want to get to is forming 3 habits. And again, it talks about the areas around habits, health, productivity, and producing videos. I mean, what is it that's not happening you know is going to have to be a part of your world that you're going to have to start forming habits around prospecting? And by the way, the third question on each one of them is, who's going to hold you accountable? If you don't have a coach and you're trying to be successful at the highest levels, you are fooling yourself. You will never get where you want to be without having somebody that's going to help you get there. It's not going to happen. You can get to a certain level by yourself. Beyond that, it takes something else. And accountability is a huge part of it. Personal growth plan. This is a form that is in the homework stuff that I've given you that has there's a packet of it. And it has to do with going through and figuring out, what are the areas of growth that it's going to take. I want to become more confident. I want to become a better financial manager. So start looking at your goals. Start looking at the behaviors that are not serving you. What are those things you want to get better at? And then put them by plan. If you read 4 books on time management, would you be better at managing your time and systems and structures? Yes or yes? You want to become better at finances? Do you think it'd be helpful to read some books from people that are extremely financially successful? Tony wrote a book, 2-3 years ago. It was monstrous, but a great book on finances. You've got this guy named Warren something or other. What's his name? That's a Buffett. Yeah, he's written a lot of stuff on that. You might want to study with a guy that's made that kind of money. You know how to read a P&L? There's books on it, right? You want to understand how to run your business? There's books on it. Whatever you want to get better at, but you got to create that. So then you put it on your plan. Being at Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny, we just went to the firewalk again for like my 8th time or something crazy like that. We broke the world firewalk record together in Austin, Texas years back. And, but I put that stuff on my plan for the year. These are places I'm going to go to inspire, to change me, to grow through, right? That's a plan. It isn't just, oh, I found something on the calendar, I think I'll go. It's like, no. What's your plan for systematizing your growth and success? Everything happens in time. Everything happens through time, in time, with time. Everything happens in time. And my discovery was that 24 hours was the same for everybody, the richest and the poorest, the smartest and the dumbest, the people that achieved the most and the people that achieved the least. It didn't matter, they all had the same 24 hours. And what I began to realize was that time is the great equalizer, but it's also the great unequalizer. The biggest difference is what we do with it. How do we think through it? The hardest thing that you will ever face, and this is where many of you are right now, this is actually talking to many of you where you are today, and that is, it's not about figuring out what you should be doing. Many of you have already got all that figured out. Your biggest decision is what are you not going to be doing? What do you need to eliminate? What do you need to take off your daily or your weekly or your monthly activities? What do you need to stop? And by the way, at various levels, you can hear people with their conversations around, we don't understand, my life is complex. Listen, life is complex. But you've got to figure out what you're going to get involved in and what you're not. What drama do you want to buy into and what drama will you let go? Who will you have handle stuff? I had a buddy that was out mowing his lawn one day. He used to work for me. And I called him on a Saturday to mow his lawn, which should be no big deal. But to me, I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? He said, I'm mowing my lawn. I said, why? He said, because it was wrong. I said, you're an idiot. I said, you're robbing some 10-year-old out of a job, first of all. Let's talk about that first. And then the second thing is, your time is worth more than that. I'd rather be enjoying Nadine than mowing the lawn. You just got to start thinking about stuff. We have everything delivered. I get Amazon in our house every single day, including Sundays. I don't think there's ever a day that packages don't come. We do our shopping that we have shipped, is our groceries. Everything just comes, right? Just comes. We don't waste time doing things that now people... Today we're in a society where we can buy everything. You can buy your freedom back. You can buy time. Decide to, right? It's a big deal. Get clear about what's really important and eliminate the rest. And that's the decision. What shall I do? What should I not do? This is mine to do. This is not mine to do. One of my favorite Gary lines of all time, one of my favorite Gary Keller lines was, he said, the great part about your job is it's your job. If I ever get your job back, I don't need you, you're gone. Right? That's very clear. It's like, it's your job. I've hired people to do all these things. If you don't do it, and I get it back, you're gone. I don't need you. I'm putting you in place because you're leverage for me. Tony left me a voice text a few weeks back, and he said, dude, I've got the finances. I was asking him to speak for an engagement, and he said, I'm not taking any more engagements. He finally took it, but he said, I'm not taking engagements. He said, I've got money and health and wealth. My health is sometimes challenging, but he said, I've got wealth, I've got time, I've got love. I've got so many great things in my life, but I can't get any more of his time. He's worth $500 million. He can't get more time. So you've got to start getting selective about what you do. And time Rex, by the way, is one of the places for it. Number one is a thing called multitasking. Stop it. It's stupid. Turn to your neighbor and say multitasking doesn't work. It doesn't. It can't. I could demonstrate it to you, but we're not going to take the time to do that today. But I will tell you, Steve Bazell, if you ever see his YouTube video, it's hysterical. The guy's funny as can be, but he talks about this. He said multitasking is just merely the opportunity to screw up more than one thing at a time. It's absolutely never going to work for you when you think you're being so effective, so efficient with your time. Number two is tech is huge in building new things for us, but it's also huge in sucking time from us. So you have to decide how tech can become a tool, not an energy suck or a life suck. It's both. And your decisions around it are going to be the things that are going to make the big difference. Number 3 is social media. How many people do I know that will say, I posted something this morning, and they do time logs for me. By the way, a time log is in this packet of stuff. Time log every 15 minutes. What did you do the last 15 minutes? Very important for finding the squirrels in your life that derail you, right? The bright shiny objects that you chase. But you post something. Great, you're going to do that. You want to have some social media presence, so you post something. But then you start looking at other people's posts. There's the problem. First move, great move. Second move, not so hot. First move took you 3 minutes. Second move took you 30 minutes. Emails, text, notifications, all kinds of communications. I get confused anymore. I remember that I heard from somebody, and I can't remember who it was, a text, a Voxer, a voicemail, a voice text. Was it on Facebook Messenger? Was it in WhatsApp? Where was that exactly? Right? We've gone to Slack, by the way. If you don't know what Slack is, look at Slack. We're using Slack. It takes all those communications things and puts them all in one place where I go, there's the train of all the thoughts. No matter where they come from, they're all there. It's really helping us a lot. My beautiful someday bride is going to do a class on this. So in our Master Agent Club, we have courses. And it's like the best of the best, cool stuff on like micro subjects. We call it real estate success one bite at a time. It's like bite-sized chunks of cool stuff. And she's going to do a technology class because she's brilliant at organizing and structuring, finding great systems. And many of you aren't using the traditional, I don't want to say command because command's been an interesting subject, but you're not using the traditional top producers and things like that. You're kind of building systems and structures that are more efficient because there's ways of doing it better than those ways. But now you've got to also live with that. Our environment, are we setting up an environment of success? Are we setting up in a place? You're working out of your house, working out of your car, working out of Starbucks, if you're working out of an office. Are you setting it up so that you're successful? Allison used to walk in the office and close the blinds because if people saw her in there, they wanted to ask her how can I do this? How do I do that? How do you do this? She said, all my day I was answering questions all freaking day long. It's hard to be in an environment like that, right? When you're a big player. Being a people pleaser, learning to say no, there's a big one. That will save you probably 10 hours a week. My friend Warren Buffett said the difference between successful people and really successful people is the really successful people learn to say no to almost everything. Yes, progress happens with yes, but so does time waste. You've got to start saying no. If you're a people pleaser and your pendulum is so over here, I want you to swing back to no, 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 no. Dinner? No. Lunch? Not doing it. Can't do it now. Just until you can come back to balance. Just overswing. Really start building a new habit. Stop the friggin' distractions. Right? They just are, it's horrible to see what's going on. Phone calls, apps, notifications. I mean, like turn all that stuff off your phones. Don't let it ding and buzz and bing. And every one of those takes your mind and moves it to the phone. Every one of them. And if you're in the office, the computer dings and your phone dings. Like, oh my gosh, it's like it puts you on an emotional roller coaster. Drop-bys, they're horrible. Texts. By the way, if you're in an environment and you've got an office and you've got pictures of your vacations and you take a look at one of them and you go, oh, that was such a cool time, your mind is left. So you've got to eliminate all the distractions in your world. And by the way, the communication confusion, that's part of what I was just talking about a second ago. So it's about doing much less, not much more. It's about getting simpler, more simplified. And in the end, it's all about what moves the ball down the field. What moves the ball down the field? I was watching a game the other day, and I was laughing because the guy stepped back and passed it, and when the guy missed the ball, I mean, it hit the ground before it got to him, he was 2 yards in front of the line of scrimmage. And I'm like, why did you make a pass 2 yards down the field? It's like, the goal is over there. Why are we doing this? It's a 20-yard pass to the sidelines. What you focus on expands, what you don't focus on never expands. It's all your energy, it's your attention, it's all of that. I'm asking you right now to be very specific about this. There's 4,000 conscious thoughts a day. There's 28% of your day is wasted. There's 60 or more. If you're in an independent contractor, the stats are it could be as high as 100 distractions a day. And by the way, in an office environment, when they come and knock at your door and say, hey, would you just help me with one little problem, or I don't want to interrupt you. Yeah, I don't want to interrupt you. I just got a quick question. Yeah, you did interrupt me already. Thank you. And it's not that quick, right? But one of the things that they've noticed is that in an environment where you're not even in an office, you're an independent contractor, with all the phone calls and all the things, we've got nearly 100 distractions a day. If you were to put a hat on of a different color every time you changed from one activity category to another, if you were just to do that, you'd see why you feel schizophrenic. Because there's a constant shift from this to this to this to this. It's never going to work for you guys. You've got to start honing in. All right. So a reality check. You're going to want to do a time log. And that means every 15 minutes, I just want you to jot down what you did. I mean, like real short. Take 15 seconds to jot down what you did 15 minutes. A phone call, 3 Facebook posts. You got stuck on Facebook for 15 minutes, whatever. If you're in a 1 hour meeting, you don't need to stop and wait. I gotta log my time. It's just at the end of an hour. All you want to do is be able to look back at the day and see what you really did. See where the squirrels are that you chase. See where the distractions are that you run after. See where the bright shiny objects that catch you, what they look like so you can get them out of your way. You want to see where the distractions are. This week being a fairly normal week, we're at Wednesday, however, but tomorrow, Friday, next Monday, I would get 3 days done of time logs. If you want any help on those, send them to me. You probably don't even need any help. You're probably going to look at them and go, OMG, I can totally see why I'm off track. Right? You can see it for yourself. So there's a time log. It's in the packet of stuff. By the way, let me give that to you. Go to Facebook and pull out your phones. I'm not a big fan of this, but you can do a post or whatever you want to do. But pull out your phones and go on Facebook real quick and go to Master Agent Club. You did already? Smart. What's that? Service is bad here? Okay. Okay, so you're not going to be able to do that until you get outside. So just remember to go there. Don't miss that, because that's where there's a folder that Allison posted 2 Fridays ago, and it's got, I think, 10 handouts. Everything I've given you so far, the morning questions, evening questions, time log, goal planning, all that stuff is all there, and we're going to get to more of it right now. So my coaches, my time coaches, let me tell you who they were. First of all, let's see what we got. Okay, so can I borrow 15 minutes from you guys? Who can hang out till 11:15 instead of only to 11? Is there anybody who has to go? Okay. All right. So we're going to borrow 15 minutes. I think we can get it done in 15. So my time coaches. So we built a monster company. It was around the time I met you, Wally. We'd already become pretty successful in what we were doing. And but I realized that there was another level, and I couldn't figure out how to get there. We were just spinning at a pretty good level. We were making pretty good money. We were, I think at that time, a little short of 7 figures, but we were doing well. And things were good for us. And I hired 2 people. One of them was David Allen. David Allen wrote a book called Getting Things Done. If you've never read his book, you should put it on your list for sure. He's written probably, I think, 3 books now. But the first one, the Getting Things Done book, is still my favorite. And at that time, he was a no-name, and he lived in Santa Barbara, California, and I hired him to be my coach. I paid him $4,000 a day for 1 day a month. I listened to every word he said. $4,000, I listened to like his positive. I had another coach by the name of Dr. Fred Gross. I had them both at the same time. I paid Fred $3,500 a month. I paid David $4,000 a month. And both of these guys were working on my time and my leverage. And what came from it is the very next year, Greg and I tripled the company size. We tripled our volume as our revenues, and we doubled our income and went well into 7 figures. It was by far a banner year. But the best part was this. The best part was that year I took 154 days off. Now, think about it. Your weekends is 152 times, it's 104. So I took 50 days of vacation, right? So it's not a ton, but it's like 7 weeks. That's not bad. But I went all over the world. I was a fly fisherman. I was in Kamchatka. I was in South America. I did all this cool stuff. And it all came from that time, that period. So I want to teach you about that real quickly. There's Getting Things Done by David Allen. My other favorite, and I'm going to recommend again more books to you, because you got to be reading or listening at least. And the other one is the 12-Week Year. 12-Week Year, before I ever read it, had shifted my thinking entirely. And I'll tell you exactly why. Because when I was with Jim Rohn, I was 21 years old. This is my third year with him. I'm 21 years old. And I remember, it's so funny that I remember this. At that time, if you asked people in our team, in our company, how much are you going to make this year? What's your goal? You had 6 figures. I think it's funny that like 40 years later, you ask people, what are you going to do in a year? 6 figures. I'm like, it doesn't mean as much today. It's not, you can't live on it. You can't have a single income and probably live on it in most places. So at 6 figures, I want to make 6 figures, and what I noticed is when I got to 6 figures, I made $100,000, and I remember Jim Rohn saying, Donald, he said, Donald, good job. He said, now you've learned to do it. I want you to do it in half the time. And when he said that, it was like, like the dog, like tweaking my head and going, how do you do that? I just worked my butt off to do $100,000. Yet the next year I hit 240, and the next year was bigger, right? So we started moving. What was interesting was that mindset was compressed time. Do it in less time, do it in less time. No matter what you do it in less time. So I see this book title, The 12-Week Year. I never even read the book, and I went, I get it totally. What if you just compressed time and you said, I'm going to do in a year, in 3 months, in a quarter, what I normally do in a year? What if you just started doing that? So let me tell you where it came from. I'm hiring this guy named Fred Gross, and he's one of my coaches. And Fred Gross, did you ever meet him, or do you know who he is? No. Great, incredible guy. Rabbi, minister, teacher. He's still alive, I believe, in his 80s. And he said to me one day, he said, what do you want? And I said, I think I need more money. I think I want more money. It's going to buy me more freedom. He said, what do you want? I said, freedom. Freedom. Ultimately, I want freedom. I want freedom from my business. Right now, Greg and I are flying all over the country, and we're busting our butts. We were traveling in both directions, 2 different directions, about 200 days a year each. Right? We were living on the road. I got my 5 million air miles during that time and a few years through that time, right? And I said, I need more freedom. And he said, I think you're looking for time. And I said, well, okay, let's make it simple. He said, well, let's make it simple. I want you to tell me something. He said, between now and the next time we get together next month, he said, I want you to put on a paper what time you want off. 3-day weekends, 4-day weekends, holidays, weeks off, 2 weeks at a time, whatever it is that you want, I want you to put it all on a calendar. Take a calendar and just map it out. So, folks, I'm telling you what the assignment is. I paid him $3,500, 3 months in a row to get to this place. The $10,500 lesson I'm giving you right now. Okay? So I remember saying to him, okay, I can do that. And I said, like, how much time? He goes, what do you want? What do you want? So I go to work on designing this thing. I want a 3-day weekend every month. I want a 4-day weekend every month. And I remember at one point in time, I turned to him and I said, Greg and I agreed we were going to take Fridays off. We were going for 3-day weeks or 4-day weeks anyway. And I said, but I never did. And he said, why not? And I said, because he didn't. And he looked at me in the very same meeting and he said, I didn't because you didn't. And I was like, are we idiots or what? We're making, we seem like intelligent guys, but we couldn't even take a freaking Friday off. So I went through and mapped it all out. A month later, we got back together, and he said, I like what you're doing here. He said, now, between now and the next time, we had, a whole day of discussion, but he said, between now and the next time, the assignment is, I want you to tell me where you're going to go on all these times off, like the 3-day weekends and the 4-day weekends. Like, figure out, just get creative and figure out what you're going to do with this time. Well, Kamchatka for sure, South America for sure, chasing big trout. I started putting this together. And a month later, we got back together, and he said his assignment before he left was, I want you to book every ticket that you've got for all this. I want you to book all the plane tickets, book all the hotels, book the tours, if you will, my fly fishing tours. He said, I want you to book it all. And I about had a heart attack. I said to him, I don't know how realistic this is. It doesn't feel very real to me. It scares the bejesus out of me to think that I'm going to spend that kind of money. He said, the one thing you haven't figured out, he said, there's a thing called a vacation miracle, and here's your $10,500 lesson. I paid him, by the way, for 17 months, so I paid a lot more than that for this lesson. But the lesson, he said, is called the vacation miracle, and that is, did you ever notice that when you're going on vacation, how effective and efficient you are before you leave? I was only coming here and going to Tony's program for this week and being gone for 8 days. I was in clamp down mode. Nobody was getting to me. No phone calls were getting through. Nothing was happening except what I needed to get done. You follow me? He said, I want you operating in that mode all the time. He said, if you'll tell me what times you want off, you can work like that and always get exactly what you want. And with that in mind, that leads you back to the 12-week year. So Shannon, last year, she was a bowl coach at one point in time. Shannon came to me last year, and her first year back in real estate, we took her to 18.4 million. But this year, we put her on the 12-week year plan. She'll have way more than 35 million. I'm not sure, 40, 38, 40, 42, somewhere in that range. But what's powerful is she had quarters where she was doing like 12 million. And all she did was work out the 12-week year. And this next year, I believe we'll be at 70 million. And the way we're going to do that is a 12-week year. So I want you to just really focus on what do you do with your 12 weeks. The vacation miracle is a big deal. Okay, so there's the deal. If you need to take a, by the way, you can take that, put your camera on that QR code that takes you to Facebook. Okay, 7th, I want to get to this, and then we're going to jump, I'm going to just jump to marketing, because I want to make sure we get to that. Focus. One-page business plan. Okay, I call it the TIP. You got to get your time back, you got to get control, and I remember handing a very successful businessman that I worked with a plan. We were going to go into business together. I gave him a plan for a business that we were working together. And it was a 2-page plan. I've seen business plans with 12 pages, with books. I've seen all kinds of business plans. And this one had 1 staple in it, 2 pages. I handed it to him. He didn't even open it. He handed it back and said, it's too complex. Get it to 1 page. Okay, so how many would like to have a 1-page plan that was everything that you wanted to have next year for growth? How many would like to have that? Okay, so this is what it looks like. It looks like the TIP. So there's a target. There's a target we're going for. Here's the target we're aiming to hit. It's the 1 annual thing. It's not quite that simple. I'll give you, there's a video in the Facebook. I just recorded it like a week ago. 22 minutes. It goes right through and gives you everything about it, right? Takes you right through the process. So there's a target for the year. There's the interim goal and another interim goal and another interim goal, and maybe as many as 4. Let me tell you what they generally are for top producers. For top producers in real estate, it looks something like, how will I increase sales? How will I market myself? How will I set up service structures? And what do my operations look like? It's those 4 areas. If you work on just 4 to 6 items that you need to focus on for each of those 3 or 4 things, that's all you're going to work on. You do those things, you will produce results you've never seen. If you work on everything else you're currently doing, you will have none of those results or have limited results. So you're going to do a mind dump of everything that you could possibly do in those areas. How can I increase sales? What can we possibly do to increase sales? What can we possibly do to market ourselves? What can we possibly do to service our clients and have a better impact, a wow experience for each and every one of them? How can we get more reviews? How can we get more referrals? How can we know that we're getting the best results? What are the things we can do right there to make that service experience awesome? And what, by the way, are the operational things? If you get those and do a mind dump, put a whole page together, here's all the things we could do, and then come back to it and say, what are the 4 things, the 5 things, max 6 things we're going to do out of each and every one of those. And then we put that on 1 sheet and you're done. Okay, so that's going to be all in there. By the way, the thing that I love about it is when you turn it sideways and you end up with those 3 or 4 initiatives that we're talking about, those 4 targets, interim goals, what you discover is those become your org chart. Those become the divisions of your company that you need people for when you become bigger. So it might be that one person handles 2 of them and one person handles 2 of them now, but later it's 4, right? Terry Peranich, I remember when we were setting up marketing systems with him, we were doing this cool stuff, and he would get one system up and he'd work it for like a quarter, and then he would get like that plate spinning at the end of a stick, and he'd hand it to somebody and go, here, you manage that one. And then he'd come back and go, what's next? And he'd get, here's another one, and he'd get that plate spinning and go, here, you're in charge of that one. And sometimes he'd have 2 or 3, flags or these sticks in front of people, and they'd be managing those systems, but it's how he blew up to be the #1 agent in all of Edmonton, right? This is the exact way he did it. So it looks like this, right? Your target is one thing, your I's are your interim goals, and the P is the projects, the things that are going to support that. And when you have it, it becomes your org chart. So that entails then the next piece, which is the action goal plan. So again, this is in the packet, and the video covers it. Okay, so I'm going to give that to you. This is all free, right? This is all just your gift. Okay, I'm gonna do that. I have to finish this one piece here. I have to finish this one piece because it's the last part of the time planning, and that is this. First of all, you're gonna build a vision, build a plan based on your vision for 2020. So again, if you've never done this before, this is the year to do it. 2020 vision, we're gonna get real clear. Time blocking is not hard. It's really not hard. Everybody knows about it. It's hard to do, but it's not hard to set it up. I'm gonna show you what it looks like. So I actually built this, and I have a similar. If I was to give you mine, it's different because I'm in this training world. But mine would look similar to this. It has a few different categories. But this is the schedule that I believe that most of you should be operating off of. Now, you're thinking it's about scheduling appointments during that time. I'm saying you actually go in and color code and time block your schedule just like that in advance. So if you get a call and somebody says, hey, we'd like you to come out and list our property, when do you see them? And the answer is, in one of the slots it says hold for client appointments. And there's several of them throughout. There's only 2 evenings. By the way, if your evenings are not Tuesdays and Thursdays, but they're Mondays and Wednesdays, or you never go out in the evenings, or whatever your rules are, then you can eliminate those. But I've got client appointments in here, I've got client appointment there, I've got client appointment here, I've got prospecting there, by the way, client or agent, which means you may be prospecting for talent, right? You could be looking for talent. But whenever you find something that you're going to do, like when I'm going to create content, video content, when do I do it? In that slot where video content is being created. So when I have an activity that comes to me, I have an appointment that comes to me, I go, where does it fit on the calendar? I've got Wednesday at 3 o'clock open. So I'm hitting my marks, not their marks. And if I completely get to the place where I've gone through and exhausted, I can't get them on calendar, then I may flex. But what I've got is also I've got built-in flex time. You see the kind of powder blue flex time. So if I need to swap something out, I just swap it out, but I move the block. So here's what it comes under. Write this down. If you create the calendar that moves your business, you don't have to think about your business anymore. You just live the calendar. But what this also does under the 12-week year premise is you start looking to fill all those client slots. Like what would happen if you actually had 5 appointments every afternoon, and you had, let's see, there's another one, and you had 5, 6, 7, so 7 listing appointments or buyer appointments. And by the way, if you're going to succeed at the highest levels and you want to take your business to the next level, it's going to be all seller appointments. So what if you had 7 seller appointments a week? How would your business be? Say it again.
Amazing.
Amazing, right? For some of you, that would be not as much as you, but I'm just saying, then fill out the calendar for your business, but fill out the calendar in advance. So here's the way it all works, and we put it all together, and you go, okay, so we have the goal settings in the now, that now to the future someday, we have the 2020, we have the action goal sheet, and then all of that translates. Here's my 1-year goal, here's where I translate the 1-year goal into the quarterly goals, the monthly goals, the weekly goals. We take it from the weekly and we put it over onto the schedule, into the daily, and we've got now the total picture of what all my time is doing. And what does it really tell you? It tells you that we, for the first time, have on that schedule what will make this all work. For the first time, you run it backwards and put all of that stuff that you needed on the calendar. Instead of what shall I do today? How many like this? Can you see where this would make a difference in the way that you operate? All right, so we're going to jump. Build a media company. We'll probably finish on this. So I want you to build a media company. There was years when I met Wally, I probably said sometime that day, Wally at Mr. Watson's company, I probably said something like, you need to stop thinking like a realtor, start thinking like a marketing company. Today I'm going to tell you it's gotten way beyond that. You've got to start thinking like a media company. You have got to start living your life through it. So it's no longer like you're not in the real estate business, you're in the media business. Real estate's just the space that you're in, but you're in the media business. It's a total mindset shift for most people. They're still in the activities going, I need to call somebody. I'm like, no, you need to do something immediate that gets people calling you. When they start calling you, it's a different game. You can get whatever you want in terms of price. You don't have people negotiating and interviewing other agents. They're calling you and saying, come list me. Fairly simple words. You could even probably smell bad and still get that one. Why don't you look at her?
Her last name's Smelly, sorry.
Oh, I see. All right. So there's three parts. There's three parts to the marketing game. Number one is going to be your strategy. Most people don't have a strategy. Most of you have gotten lost in the next part, which is called the tools. You're looking for tools. You hear about the new gadget, the new buzzer, the new banner, the new thing, whatever that is, and you go for the tools. But if the tools don't fit in your strategy, you don't have a strategy, you're in trouble. And of course, the worst part is, you have tools and we don't implement them properly, then we're screwed, right? We just don't get the results. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of stuff to work on. It's going to be a laundry list of things. You can take a picture at the end, but you may want to grab a couple things along the way. Number one is you've got to define your target market. If I could give you one thing that would make a big difference in your marketing, if I could just give you one thing, I would tell you that if you finally chose a target market and got as specific as you possibly could, you would succeed at a much different level. And if you succeeded by being a generalist, I can't tell you how you would explode if you would ever move that down. You know who Tim Heil is? I had a discussion with Tim Heil 2 falls ago, and he'll never listen because he's done so well. The challenge with being successful is it's hard to get challenged to be more successful. But I said to him, Tim, here's the dilemma. I have been in the real estate space for 40 plus years. I see everything real estate. If I drive through the city streets, I see every real estate sign, I see every open house sign, I see every little crummy company that's in the back corner of some strip mall. I see everything real estate. My Raz is so tuned into real estate, I live through real estate. I see real estate, I see mortgage, because it's related to real estate. I see those things all the time. And I said, I've lived here in Austin for 5 years and I've never seen a sign of yours. And I said, I know you made $2.5 million last year, and I'm telling you, you are being highly ineffective. How do you say that to a guy who's making $2.5 million, right? But the reality is, he had no area that he owns. What he's done is he's made a call system into everybody out there, that every call that he makes, nobody remembers that they've heard from Tim Heil. You're just always calling in a cold zone. You're always in that place where you're looking for the next deal. But if you set up a whole system to do it, then it's kind of cool because you've got a lot of people doing it, but the reality is it's a very expensive system. And it could stop tomorrow. I said, what would happen if you ever consolidated all of your marketing effort and put all those signs, all those listings that you're carrying, and you had them in one area? So that if I lived in anywhere close to that, I'm driving through, I see your signs all the time. Oh my gosh, who should we call? Well, Tim sells everything here. And I said, if you were ever to pull it back and work, how many ever played the game Risk? You remember the game Risk? What was the secret to Risk? Consolidation of armies, power and strength in mass numbers, right? When you got all spread out all over hell, what happened? You got beat up. You were out of business quickly. When you consolidate and you start coming from that place. So number one, define your avatar and know who you're going for. Pick a target market. I would refer you to this book, Blue Ocean Strategy. Blue Ocean, Blue Ocean Strategy, and then there's a new one, Blue Ocean, I forgot. I love their books. Blue Ocean is where nobody is. Well, here's the deal in real estate. Realtors think so real estate oriented. They think in terms of buyers and sellers. They think in terms of FSBOs and expireds. I want you to start thinking like consumers think. Consumers organize themselves in completely different ways. What do you do for a living? I'm an engineer. What do you do for a living? I'm a teacher. They organize themselves that way. They have groups of those people. I'm a cyclist. I'm a sports fan. I'm a extreme sports fan or extreme athlete. They come in bunches, they come in groups. There's seniors, there's couples, there's families, there's ways that they organize themselves. And when they do that, that's how you can get to them. That's where the niches are. That's the blue ocean. The red ocean is where everybody already is. Let's go after expireds and FSBOs. There's a hell of an idea. Nobody's ever thought of that before. There'd be nobody calling those people after Bolt. There's riches in the niches, and I'm telling you that this is the single thing that if I could take anybody who's doing well, and if I could change it and have them go after a niche, their volume will pop up. They will do more. It's a big deal. It's a really simple thing. This is my girl. This is Allison. She's condo Contessa in Austin. So guess what? She works in buildings. She doesn't even have to go any place to do it. It's like they're all up there. They're all straight up. Her geographics are simple. Does that make sense? By the way, her second mailing went out, and this guy calls her and said, "Come and list my property." And I said, "That's an accident. They don't believe that that's going to happen again because you don't even have a reputation yet." But it was so clear to him when he saw a condo Contessa and he had a condo in one of those buildings. Who else would you call? Right. She got a call on the third mailing that came out. And the gal called from Dallas and said, I own a condo in that building, and my neighbor tells me you're like the condo queen or something like that. That was the conversation. She goes, yeah. She said, would you list my property? I mean, it's like, that's what happens when you have a niche and people know. A doctor, a generalist, or a neurosurgeon, who gets paid more?
Neurosurgeon.
Who's more in demand? I can find any general practitioner, it doesn't matter. But when I'm having brain surgery, I'm looking for who? The best, the guy. Next is your story. Your story is critical. Your story is a missing component. Your story is how you translate your life into something that people go, I really like her. I really like him. It's how you humanize the realtor that nobody wants to talk to. The reason they lie to you and don't give you information that's accurate when you have an open house or when people meet you a lot of times is because they don't want you to call them. Right? So what I want you to do is humanize yourself. The story is interesting. This is a story of a flag. This is a flag that came out of an online catalog for True Value. And I could buy that flag right there for $39. So $39. How much do you think this flag would cost? It's an early 1900s flag. Right? It flew over some fort. I don't remember the exact story, but how many would guess on eBay I could get more for this one than that one? How much more? Like a lot more, right? What about this one? How much do you think that's worth? So it's all the story. The flag, the flag, the flag. No, it's not the flag. It's the story. You don't have a story. Write this next one down. You've got to have a campaign for your forever clients. That's what I call our past clients. Forever clients. By the way, that's cultural. Change your name, it changes your approach. They're forever clients. They're not my past clients, they're my forever clients. Your obviously your IDX lead generation platforms, your promotions for your target market, meaning they're promotions for the target market. They're thought through from a perspective of who are you trying to get to, who are your clients, not just, I got an idea, I think I'll do a turkey drive, or I'll do a canned goods drive, or what's going to work for your target market, right? It's appropriate. So again, pick the kind of thing, whether they're community events or social events or whatever they are. Then there's this piece called promotional events just for your past clients, your forever clients. What do you do for them? What do those things look like? There's a place to spend some money on your forever clients. Digital business cards, absolutely one of my favorite things. I don't carry a business card, haven't for a long, long time. But I've got a digital business card that takes you right to my website, that takes you right to everything I want you to get to. That's what that looks like. LFI is my choice, but again, there's many of them around. You can get whatever you want. What I love about this one, here's John Morrison. This is a fun character friend of mine. It's been a client of mine for like 20 years. But when John uses it, when I went to go inspect it and go look at it and take pictures, he sent me this. It's the new card, Don Hobbs viewed your John Morrison EXP Realty thing. So he got information that I was on his business card in the moment. Right? That's how fast. Do you know when people are looking at your cards or your stuff? The answer is probably not. Consistent direct mail, I'm going to tell you as old school as you think that is. The reason that it's interesting to me is because when everybody pulled out of direct mail in 2008 and 9 and 10, it left all that vacant space. I go to my mom's house in Southern California, and there used to be 10 people that farm her area. Right now there's 1. Guess who's getting all the business in the area? Oh, I wonder why. How interesting. By the way, brand standards, consistency for a brand. Do you have a brand? Do you have a brand that's consistent in everything that you do so that your look, the color schemes. By the way, there's a thing called Adobe look it up, just on Google, just Adobe Color Wheel. Just write that down for your note. Go into Adobe Color Wheel, I think that's what it's called. And you can take any picture that you got and put the picture into the Adobe Color Wheel, and it'll tell you all the colors that are in that picture that you could use for making that look like all your stuff. But see, the challenge with realtors is they spend a lot of money on stuff that doesn't look like the other stuff that they've sent out. And then they don't ever build a brand. So it's like, oh, look, a realtor thing. Oh, look, a realtor thing. Instead of, oh, look, John's thing. Oh, it's John again. Oh, John sold something else. So when you start doing branding, then you start getting to where you're really building something for your future. And your logo is a big part of it, but it's not the whole thing. A lot of agents think they're doing a great job when they go out and get a graphic designer to design a logo. A logo means nothing, and a slogan means nothing if you don't have a target market and a story attached to it. There's a lot more to it than that. Which, by the way, then dictates all your social media. What kind of videos you'd be doing, who you'd be interviewing. Everything comes from the understanding, the strategy, not the tools. You get it? I'm going to get it. Is this making sense? Is this useful? You glad that Wally and Dave invited you? How many are really glad? Thanks, guys. We're gonna thank them. Your personal brochure, the story gets told in the personal brochure. The story gets told on your website. Most people don't have a story on their website at all. The best they've got is like a little one-liner. Been in real estate for 20 years and loves helping their clients. So what? Everybody says that. Your business cards look the same as your other stuff. Your signs look the same as your other stuff. Everything should have that sameness of look. Everything is part of your brand. Your open house signs, 50 of them for an open house, 50 of them. Put them everywhere. I want to see your signs all over the place. On that day when you're holding an open house or somebody on your team is, we should see your signs so much that you're branded from one freaking day. But you're not doing it that way. So those are the cool things that you can do there, your brochures, your postcards, all of that stuff, right? Then your geographic farm, I'm still a big believer. I believe there's so much you can do in geographics. And today we can get stats from your big data information that tells you who in there is most likely to move. There's so many things that you can get in stats from that stuff. Your big data tracking partners, so you need somebody like IO, what's it called? Something IO. If you want that, ask me and I'll get that to you, the big data tracking. Brand directional signs, absolutely. Your sponsor of local teams, again, if you're in an environment where you know who your target market is, but don't be sponsoring a local team if your thing is extreme sports fans. Like, one has nothing to do with the other. Your brand is dictated or moved around by your target market. So make sure it's appropriate. Billboards, we got somebody yesterday, our Oregon group, they're going to go put 2 billboards. There's only 2 entrances to their city, and they're going to have a billboard inside the city at both entrances, now entering Beltran country. Trust me, they already own the market, they're going to kill it. And so let's put our foot on the necks of all the other realtors so they don't even compete with you ever again. They're like the old days when Tiger was so dominant that everybody was trying to figure out who was going to be number 2 this week. When you get to the place where you are, when you get to the place where you're successful and you're really building big things, the only question next is, how do I take that success and create where nobody can touch me, where I'm the dominant force forever. And the market share that you get at that time, you'll never lose. So your Facebook and Google ads, absolutely. Your Facebook group, doing something like this is phenomenal. This is a friend of mine in Canada, and she did this thing called Milton area female entrepreneurs, MAFE. She's got 1,800 members of MAFE that are in there actively, that are all female business owners. They'll host meetings at their businesses, and she gets to be the only realtor of all those 1,800 businesses that are all females like her. And last year she did over $1 million in income from being an attorney, and it's been like 3 years, 4 years, something like that. So again, this is her only marketing. She does no FISBOs. She does no postcards. She does no mailing. She does no other stuff. She takes care of her Facebook group and does promotions within that group. And then, of course, you've got video, all that stuff, blogs, video, all your high-tech stuff. Okay, so we're going to finish there. So let me stop. First of all, how many took a few notes? How many took a few notes? Was it helpful? Takeaways, quickly. Give me one thing, a couple things pop up. What do you got? What are you going to do? What are you gonna do different?
blocking.
Say
Time
who?
blocking. The time blocking.
Time blocking. Excellent. Love that. Powerful. What else?
Organization.
Organization. Come on, boys. Dave, you want to come up? I mean, you're welcome to. Say it again. Organization. What else?
What changes or needs to be for you?
Great. Who's going to go to the Facebook site and join? You'll have to fill out 3 questions. Please fill them out for me. But then just in one of them, put Wally or Dave's name. Just put Wally or Dave. That's all I need to see. We'll do that, okay? John?
Yeah, I think envision myself bigger.
Envisioning yourself bigger. So bigger thinking.
Now I can be Christina Welch and I
Well, you can't really be because she's yeah, there's a little issue there. But okay, so good stuff. Go deep on the notes, and then go back to all your actions, and then go into the tools. Grab all those downloads and print them out. I could have all those in your hands by tonight, so that over the next 9 days you can get everything done between now and next Friday. Okay, I want to finish off before I let these guys have the final say goodbye. And I want to finish with something that is meaningful to me. And I don't know if it'll mean anything to you, but I remember being in a movie theater probably 10 years ago. I want to say 10 years ago. And there was a movie that was, at the time, just running called Coach Carter. Does anybody remember the movie? Remember, I'm a sports fan, right? So I'm watching this movie, and there was it's a cool movie. It's a true story. And Coach Carter helped this team, and they take all these at-risk youths and bring them up in a very tough area of Oakland, California. True story, right? So I'm watching the story. At the end, there's a classroom, and this kid who had just gone through, was just about to get into a gang. The coach stopped him and helped him and changed his life. And the kid stands up right there, right about where you're sitting, and he started saying these words. And I remember I just broke into tears. Like, it was so beautiful, it was incredible, so emotional. And I remember in a Google Society, I pulled up my phone and I Googled just one sentence, and it popped up. And it was the inaugural speech for Nelson Mandela when he was inaugurated as president of the country, South Africa, in 1993. And I thought, wow, this is powerful. So I started taking it around with me, and I was sharing it with people. I read it to them, and I was like, I love this. And then somebody corrected me and said, no, you're wrong. It's actually Marianne Williamson. And it's from a book called A Return to Love. And I haven't given you enough books to read yet. There's another one to add, A Return to Love. And it's called Our Deepest Fear. And you've probably heard it before, but in case you haven't heard it for a while, I want you to think about it in terms of what we talked about today, because I believe you're already playing big and you're playing small compared to what your possibilities are. You're not playing as big as you could. And I believe that there's a part where what we all do matters. What this man does, what this man does, what all of you do matters. And the biggest reason it matters is because not only does it touch lives, but you're touching people you don't even know you're touching. It's generational. It's many. You touch one who goes home and has a better attitude and touches others, and it's like this. It's a ripple effect. So let me just say this to you and take it away from this event. And think of the words, and you can find this online, but the words it's Marianne Williamson, who, by the way, is running for president of all the wacky things. I mean, just kind of out of the blue. Marianne Williamson running for president. It's called Our Deepest Fear. She said, our deepest fear is not that we are powerful. Our deepest fear is that our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, talented, gorgeous, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You're a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that's within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in every one of us. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Wish I'd said it. I wish I'd written it, but I didn't. But I copied it. How many can see that there's a place for you to be bigger in your world? How many see that there's a bigger you? How many are prepared? How many are committed? I'm going to put one other thing in there tonight, or maybe at lunch. I'm going to put one other thing in that handout. And if I don't get it in there, because sometimes I struggle to get things in the folder that's already been set up, I think I got it, but because I don't. You can look tomorrow. For sure, I'll have it there tomorrow. and I'll put a poem called Commitment. And I'd like you to read it in the morning when you wake up, and I'd like you to read it in the evening before you go to sleep. If you read it, and again, it's not my work, but it's the most incredible thing that will push you to boundaries and limits that you've never seen. It'll push you through if you're committed, and it'll help you get there. Okay? Thank you very much for having me. Well, thank you very much.
Just a couple of takeaways that I'll share with our company. Wiley's wrote a book called Traction, Gino Whitman, which is a great business book that I recommend anybody. It's based on very similar principles. And we have a BHAG at Landmark Title. We did a little over 3,000 closings last year. We'll do a little over 4,000 this year. We have a goal of 9,600 in 4 years. That's our BHAG. How do I get there? We live in a 90-day world. We do it one bite at a time. We set our goals 90 days out. We work for them. We make sure we get it done. We set them another 90. So the most important thing I take from this is it's all worthless if you don't follow through. You have to find a way to not just set the goals and have the BHAG, but then you gotta find the follow through. But Traction is a great book. E-Myth's another great book. If you haven't read E-Myth, especially for those of you that have teams and really put procedures and processes in times. But this is very helpful. I always get some good nuggets out of this stuff. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, Dave. Thank you.
So to close us out, Dave and I have the same traction coach, and this is hysterical. He calls me one day, and it's how you lift each other up by hanging around with people. He calls me and he says, "Well, have you read the book Traction?" And I said, "No, Dave, and neither have you." He said, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "Dude, I know you don't read." He said, "Okay, I did it on an audio book. You gotta read this book." I read the book. Ryan in the back is our implementer for our company. We now have the same traction coach of pushing these crazy limits. So if we can help you with that, let us know. I didn't know you were going to say that. Let us know what help you. We're running it very, very successfully. 3 things real quick. Tim Heil, you mentioned Tim. In my, I'm standing here. You come stand here too. In my quest to be able to hang out with Don and do the kinds of stuff we were doing together, he pumped me through about $20,000 worth of training. I thought, oh, cool, I'll be doing stuff with Don. I'm going to give him $20,000. It was my $20,000. One of the things I was at, we were at the KWI headquarters, and I met Tim. Many of you know Tim. So I had just met Tim Heil. I was 28 years old. He's doing about $100 million at the time. I was sitting next to him in the trainer presenter event, small group like this. And I said, "Tim, how in the hell do you manage to get the things done that you get to have done with all of the demands of people asking me things?" He says, "Well, it's easy for me. I just say no to people who aren't a part of the plan." So back to John's point about the no's is really where the power is. Media company. I run a media company. We have a media company here today. We've got this whole thing recorded. We're going to send it to you. Some of you see the stuff we do on radio, we do on podcasts, we do the other places. Some of you have sat in the studio with me. Every single one of you is welcome in any media thing you see me do. You're welcome to come do it. I want to come do it with you. I want you to learn how to leverage those things. We run a program down. What's your name?
Dave.
Dave. He's actually put lunch on this, how to become the celebrity expert in your niche. I cannot overemphasize the power of learning to become your own micro media company. Everybody here got here basically on 6 videos and no money. When you learn to do it, it's very easy. The last thing is about doubling your business in 2020. Dave's got lofty goals, I've got lofty goals, you all individually have lofty goals. Here's the power of a little bit of media and coming from a position of contribution, which Dave and I have done in bringing you here. Some of you in the room, this is a really powerful room. It's a powerful room. Some of you here exclusively use Landmark Title. Some of you occasionally use Landmark Title. Some of you have never used Landmark Title. Home Pro Inspections. Some of you have exclusively used Home Pro Inspections. Some of you occasionally, and some never. His lofty 2020 goals and beyond, mine beyond, this room can pass them for both of us if we collaborate together. When you see this kinds of stuff, brilliant guys like Tom, and the things he does, if you want to co-brand things, we'll co-brand them and fund it. Am I speaking out of turn? We'll co-brand them and fund it. We will do anything for you and for your customer to get you through your 2020 goals in less time than you spent working on your business in 2019. That's collaboration, it's resources, it's access. If any of you would like to be here in the afternoon, we're doing a similar program. It's not quite as high level in terms of the audience, but I promise you in terms of delivery, it'll be at the same place. You're very welcome. The only thing I ask, we have supposedly 3 empty seats, you never know. If we can't accommodate you all, that's good. I'm grateful to you. I hope you have a glorious Thanksgiving. Wish you Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and a freaking kick-ass 2020. Thank you.
I'll take one.
Nice to meet you. If I can do anything with you guys, let me know. Yeah. So, you know, you want to serve yourself the partners that we have.
Independent company, I started it.
It's got a franchise name, that's why. Okay, thank you. I'll shoot you an email. Cool, guys. Thanks for coming. No problem.
Good job. There we
You don't want to? Well, I've got a little breakfast left. So I'll go to the cup on the way back.
Thanks,
Good to see you, man. Happy to be here. Right now?
Get that down the river and get something else in the later. There's 4 Yeah, I told you.
Maybe stuff all the way in the back.
Lights. 17 years.
Go with that, wherever you want to play yourself. I believe you.
Just drive around.
Put the screen recorder there.
It's organization. Yeah, and that's part of it.
So that's nice.
Really interesting that you have No, I'm doing that's gonna be different next year, but
Here it is, right?
I really want to
This is the one, show me the money.
What's really